You're listening to Ernestly Speaking, the only weekly podcast that covers friends, foes, and anything that goes. And now, for your badass host, Ernest Owens.
And we're back with another episode of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens, myself. Well, it is, I guess, the end of March. March Madness has come and it's about to go, and we're headed towards April. This month felt like it went really fast, but so much has happened. And it's like, I don't know, maybe it's the kickoff of spring that like I'm finally getting ready, and like now the semester is almost over too. Like this semester at CCP is almost done. The spring semester, that is. And I actually gotten word back that I will be returning for the summer. I'm going to be doing summer classes, which is exciting. I'm teaching public speaking during the summer. Apparently, summer courses are very different because at CCP they don't do every type of course available, but they pick their most popular or the ones that even people who are students in the associate degree program, and even those who just want to take classes, public speaking is clearly on the top of that list. And, my ratings and my reviews are so high that they've asked me to come and do, public speaking for the summer. So I will be teaching in the summer. And I didn't know this because you all know I have been used to not working in a salary type culture. That apparently as a professor, that's full time at CCP in this fellowship program, I didn't technically have to teach and I would still get paid. I didn't even know that existed. I'm so used to, working, quote unquote, and getting paid while working. And so I'm getting paid extra to teach in the summer, which, yay, capitalism. Or not necessarily capitalism, because I am getting paid for my work. So, but I'm getting even more money to just teach. And so it's kind of cool. So the first half of the summer, I'll be teaching in person. So if you're interested, I think enrollment is still available for those who are interested in just taking a public speaking class. I will be teaching in person for the first half of the summer. And then the second half, there will be, I have an online asynchronous teaching of public speaking for those who are not living in Philadelphia, but want to get my expertise. So I do a whole entire asynchronous teaching situation that I do, and I get paid for that as well. So that was some unexpected money that just kind of came, and I'm excited. So in the midst of that, my summer is already being booked and busy. I'm doing some public speaking engagements. I'm teaching apparently now, and just doing some other great stuff. So yeah, it's crazy. Spring has just started. And I'm already planning for the summer. This is what it looks like to be booked and busy, or productive. I don't like the word busy because I feel like busy is just like a throwaway word. Productive is what I'm going for. So we're booked and productive. We're BP, or we're BAP, booked and productive. I'm BAP, BAP. Once I use them, say I'm BAP, y'all. But yeah, I'm excited. So I'll get this out the way because I know a lot of people have been asking about it. So CCP, as you all know, we're in labor negotiations. I'm a part of the union. I do support unions. There was a threat that there was going to be a strike. I, in my gut, knew it wasn't going to be a strike, but I digress. But there was 11th hour shift that there was a possibility that there could have been a strike. And fortunately, that did not happen. The administration answered the deals of the union, and now there is going to be higher pay raises increase for faculty and those who in the union, faculty and professors like myself. So I'm going to see great raises and increases, and there's going to be free SEPTA passes for students, which is awesome. Because a lot of times certain, students will complain and say, especially the students that we teach, we do have a very diverse student population, which I love. Our student population is predominantly Black students. And we have a lot of students that are on financial aid and lower income, regardless of their racial identities. CCP is one of the most diverse campuses in Philadelphia. It's the most diverse campus in Philadelphia. We have no HBCUs, but yeah, CCP is the most diverse student population in the city. and we have the most lower income diversity, economic diversity among students as well. And they have unique challenges that maybe students who go to private colleges don't have, right? And so, for example, there is no housing, student like housing, like the way that students will live on campus. Like these students may or be full-time students, but there is no like campus like housing situations the way that like Penn and Temple have. So a lot of these students have to, accommodate transportation, whether that is parking, whether that's driving, Uber, whatever, or public transportation to get here. There are some students that I've had that have said to me, they can't come to class this day because they don't have enough money for a ride fare. They may have other, job constraints and situations where they might have been getting car share from a family member or a spouse, and it was, someone's time to drive the car, and they didn't have a way or means to get to campus. And so sometimes that impacts their participation and their engagement. And now we don't have that issue. Now students having the excuse of saying they have no way to get to campus or that they couldn't afford to get rides to campus. Now that is no longer a barrier for students. And so that feels good, because I've had students who've told me that, today they couldn't get a SEPTA pass this week or whatever the case is. And they were, they were keeping up with work through modules and things like that in the online system, but to physically be present was a barrier. And it's hard. And we're encouraged, we're told we can't necessarily give students money and do little things like that. There's a certain boundary. And it's hard for me because, I taught at, Cheney, and being a Cheney professor, that wasn't the situation because all the students were on campus. So they lived on campus housing and whatnot. So coming to class wasn't an excuse. Now getting them to participate was different, but it was a little different with that. Even at Penn, like students who said they couldn't come to class, was like, you wasn't coming to class because you was skipping class. In my situation now at CCP, the interesting barrier is transportation sometimes and affordability. And so we're dealing with students who that's a real reality for them, So now that the union has been able to negotiate a situation where all students have free SEPTA passes, that is going to make a lot of changes. And I'm really excited about that. And also just, the benefits. I mean, I thought CCP personally, my husband used to work at CCP. I always thought the pay and everything, speaking for myself, I thought the money was good, but I'm also someone who has multiple streams of revenue. And so for those whose entire, financial livelihood depends on salaries at CCP, there's no harm to negotiating and asking for more. And so they've gotten some really great pay increases. I think 6.5% that increases over the next year or so. Each year increases. It's really good, apparently. I mean, I don't, I'm learning, but, more money for hard work, great. And also another big benefit is that there's lower class sizes. So professors are teaching less students, or there's a cap on it, because in the past there was this, we were teaching 35 something students. Now I think it's under 30 or something like that, or certain class numbers. So that is pretty dope. And then also for adjunct professors, which I used to be an adjunct at CCB before I got into this fellowship. If a class gets canceled, 2 weeks in advance, there is a cancellation fee that's provided to the professors, who had to adjust their schedule or planning. So I've had situations like that in the past. For me, I was fortunate because, they'll just move me to a different class. I may teach the same class more than once, but there were some professors who might have had a unique course that they taught. And because their enrollment numbers were low, they might cancel the class, even though they might have told this professor throughout the summer or whatever, they were planning a lesson, planning a syllabus, all this stuff, adjusting their schedules. And then all of a sudden, like a week before the class is supposed to start and supposed to teach, it gets canceled. In the past, the class was canceled. That was it. The end. Now they're going to pay a cancellation fee if a class gets canceled because of enrollment, if they were assigned to teach. So that's nice, for adjunct professors. That's a good situation. I mean, when I was teaching at Cheney, that didn't happen. A class would get canceled and it was like, okay, so I done readjusted my schedule and now I'm not teaching that course. So now what they are doing is if a class gets canceled, even if they reassign you somewhere else, if that class got canceled and you planned for that and did that work, because that's the thing that people don't talk about, is that even if you get reassigned to another course that has enrollment, you're still going to get paid. The labor and work you put into planning that curriculum for another class that does not get taught and gets canceled, that's just work. That's labor that doesn't get compensated for. So I do think the cancellation fee is going to be a good move, and I think it's great. It also keeps professors who are adjuncts interested in staying with the college or the university they're at, because there are some adjuncts who get experience that they transfer and they go to another school, because that kind of burn experience, is a little bit, well, not a little bit, that is very frustrating. And it also is discouraging for them to want to continue to teach at the campus. So all of these are good things. I'm super ecstatic. I've heard about the fact that some of these contract change goes into effect September 2024. So as an adjunct professor, they will retroactively give me the pay raises and increases when I was an adjunct. Even though now I'm in the fellowship, I get retroactively those benefits because I'm still with the college. So it's a money season right now, and there are times when I look at the decisions I've made in my career where I made certain pivots, I've made certain decisions, and sometimes the answers are not fully fleshed out. The gut feeling is there, but then there are moments like this when I'm like, the universe is just so good to me, and I'm so good back, that this is those karmic experiences that you just can't put into words. So I am just very grateful and very blessed to just be in a space where making good decisions pay off literally and figuratively. So yes, it's a good spring over here in this house. But yeah, great times all around. We got a lot to talk about in this episode. It was so funny. My good bestie Abel was saying, you got a lot to cover this week. I was like, I know, but we got so much ground. So much to say. But let's get to it. Alphaversary was great. For those who don't know what Alphaversary is, it's when an alpha, a member of Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, celebrates 1 year, another year into the fold. For some people, that could be looked at as, what does that look like in the fold? It looks like, basically a birthday, but we don't call it a birthday. We call it Alphaversary. So it is a great time to be had. And we did. My line, brothers, we celebrated at Barra Rosa, which is a restaurant on 929 Walnut Street. Barra Rosa is cool. It's very affordable, good food. I'll tell you why we did it there. And it's a little bit of a diva moment, but I couldn't help myself. But Barra Rosa is a cool, casual Italian restaurant. Very affordable, good drinks, easygoing. Great for large parties. It was 13 of us, and my line is 13. And they good happy hour food, private dining situations, just very chill, very easy, very, very fun and just low key. And I love it. And it's very good because the parking is good because we're in that like Jefferson Hospital area. And so it's something I always tell people, when you have a dinner party, okay, and you're throwing a big party, and you got people who got all kinds of different experiences and dietary restrictions. They're Muslim, they're vegan, they're vegetarian, they're cheap, they're got pescatarian, they whatever the case is. It's always good to have a variety of different types of options. And I always tell people the top 2 dining options for folks who are looking to serve a large party is always the 2 that I always recommend. Either go Italian or go Asian. That's it. If you do anything else, it gets a little sticky. And the reason why I say Italian is because Italian is one of those with or without types of food. So you could get chicken parmesan. Okay, maybe you can swap out the chicken for eggplant. Okay, you do no cheese, just red sauce, right? You could do something gluten-free. There's gluten-free options. You can do gluten-free pasta at some places. You can go vegetarian. You can go vegan. You can say, look, I just want the pasta with the marinara, or I just want to, keep it cute with breadsticks. It's a lot of things. You can do something with pork, or you can swap it out for chicken. There's a lot of different options you can have with Italian food that I just think people sleep on. And so I'm a big fan of that. Asian food is the same way. Asian food, there's a lot of gluten-free options. There's opportunities to take meat out, take things out. You can have pho with or without. You can do things with tofu. You can do things without. There's just a lot of different options as well for those who have dietary restrictions. I feel like other cultures, it's harder to do that. Indian food is, you could do that with Indian. The problem is that people are not familiar with it. Some people may not be necessarily accustomed to Indian dishes, like the ingredients, the flavors, the spices, whereas Chinese food, Asian food in general, that is a very, universal palate. A lot of people are familiar with Chinese food. I mean, clearly, whether it's takeout, delivery, whatever. Italian food is the same way. It's a very universal type of cuisine by American standards. So it's not hard to get a picky eater to eat one of those options. So, that has always been my go-to. And if you can get it, in some cases, if you can get it BYOB, even better, because a lot of Italian restaurants in Philly, there is BYOB options, the same with Chinese Asian food. So affordability and flexibility is good as well. A lot of those restaurants are serving food family style, large portions, which also adjusts to that. So for all of my folks that love to do parties and wonder how to deal with picky eaters or do big parties, I always tell people go Italian or go Asian. Now, see, this is the issue that Philly has, and this is just I just want to just put this on the table. You all don't do buffets often, and so growing up in the South, the answer to the end all be all answer used to be buffets. We would just go to a buffet. We would have a party at a buffet, and when I'm getting a little fancy, if you are like a little bit more elevated in your taste. Brazilian steakhouses are often a good option as well. Now, that gets a little interesting if you got people that are vegetarian. However, there's good salad bars and situations that will be great. Now, if you're trying to do the rodizio steak situation, vegetarians is a little harder for them because the only thing they're going to probably get is the grilled pineapple option. But it is good for those who are not vegetarian and vegan, because they're with those Rodeo Steakhouses, they'll do chicken, they'll do pork, they'll do seafood, they'll do other things that may not be for red meat or pork eaters. So if you want something a little bit elevated, as somebody who's done dinner parties at those type of environments, the Rodizio steakhouse, Brazilian steakhouses are good options because they also come with that buffet element if you want to host as well. So I just gave you a free tutorial on how to host dinner parties and large parties for people. I see a lot of you all still want to try to mix it up with places, and I'm like, no. Stick to the Asian cuisine, stick to the Italian cuisine, can never go wrong. And for my friends who have gone to my dinner parties over the years and have gone, oh, that's why we do it like that. Yeah, that's why I do it like that. And that's why you come, and that's why you always find something for the menu, you picky ass eaters. But nonetheless, those are my recommendations there. So we did Barra Rosa, which was fabulous. Now, the reason why I picked that place, and that was a strategic plan, is because on my Alphaversary dinner, which was on Monday, I had for many months bought tickets to go see Dreamgirls. Mr. Johnson and I, that is his favorite musical. His favorite Broadway musical is his favorite musical. It's one of his favorite movies, but also one of his favorite musicals. And he's never seen the stage version of it. And so part of his birthday gift was these tickets, opening night to see Dreamgirls at the Walnut Street Theater, which, let me just say, if you can go, the show is running for one thing I'll give Walnut Street Theater credit for, because people be sleeping on Walnut Street Theater because it's not a part of the whole Kimmel brand, right? The whole ensemble. Well, they don't even use Kimmel anymore, but you know what I mean. Ensemble Arts, right? It's not part of Ensemble Arts brand. It's its own independent theater. But the Walnut Street Theater is the oldest theater in America. Fun fact, it's the oldest theater in America. It is a piece of American history, y'all. It is historic. It has been around forever. And Walnut Street Theater is iconic just for the type of shows that they do. What I like about them is that they have certain shows that they do that Kimmel might not do. They've done Beauty and the Beast when Kimmel wasn't running that, because Kimmel typically runs Broadway musicals and shows often that are a part of the Broadway national tour. So whatever is on Broadway that's doing a national run of the tour comes to Kimmel, which is why it's very popular. So shows like Hamlet, shows like Wicked, shows like The Lion King. But what about shows that are not on Broadway currently that you still want to see? Like, let's say you want to see Evita, or you wanted to see Anything Goes, right? Those shows are not on Broadway currently, but they're Broadway classics. And so a lot of times people will see those shows at the Arden. But if you know my I wouldn't call it a critique, but one thing about the Arden is that the Arden is very minimalist, very, innovative in their own approach. They don't necessarily do their shows with a level of classicness. It's a very innovative modern touch. And sometimes you want to see classic shows the way that they were intended or the original way to have fun with them. So for example, I saw Into the Woods. I've seen Into the Woods a bunch of times. I do like Into the Woods. I love that musical. It is definitely one of my top 10 favorite musicals. I'm a big Stephen Sondheim musical girl. Like when everybody's talking about Andrew Lloyd Webber, I am like Stephen Sondheim. I am more Stephen Sondheim than Andrew Lloyd Webber. No shade to him. No shade to Roger and Hammerstein's. I'm a Sondheim girl. I typically like my musicals to be a little bit more modern with a little bit of edge. Okay, so we're talking Company. We're talking shows with Patti LuPone. We're giving those kind of musicals. We're doing, we're Sondheim over here. Sondheim over here. But I do appreciate some Andrew Lloyd Webber. I am a snob in that regard. But I the Cats and the Phantom of the Opera. I mean, those are fun too. But Stephen Sondheim is where it's at for me. I find his musicals and the songs, I find the lyrics a lot more memorable and fun. For example, classics. We can go down the list of some of y'all might say, am I a Stephen Sondheim fan? You might be without even realizing it. You might not even realize that you're a stan for him and his musicals. So some of his favorite musicals: Sweeney Todd, Sunday in the Park with George, Into the Woods, Company, A Little Light Music, Assassins. The list goes on. Those are some of his classic musicals that I enjoy. West Side Story. Did you know that? Follies. For some. Those are some of his iconic musicals that he's done. Now, Andrew Lloyd Webber, it's a different. He's got some. He's a GOAT. Let me be very clear. I'm not gonna play with him. He's a GOAT. He has Phantom of the Opera, Sunset Boulevard, Cats, Jesus Christ Superstar, Evita. So Evita is one of his shows. So that's Andrew Lloyd Webber. Those are some of his classics, right? So it ranges, right? You got Elton John. You got Elton John. He does a couple of he doesn't really do musicals aggressively, but you got Stephen Schwartz, who does a couple of shows. You don't want to sleep on him. So Stephen Schwartz, for those who want to know, Godspell, Wicked. He's done some of those iconic musicals, for the stage. Godspell, Pippin, he worked on Pippin. He's done Children of Eden. He did The Prince of Egypt. That is his. But Wicked is one of the most known ones that he's done. But he's got Godspell is classic. Pippin is classic as well. He's got a couple of different shows on his belt. So I love some of my musical girls. Roger and Hammerstein's. We're gonna go down the road. We gotta show some love to Roger and Hammerstein. They got their nice little situation. So it's a lot of different different shows and musicals that carry weight. But I love personally, I personally love Sondheim. But back anyway. So Dreamgirls was fabulous. I really enjoyed Dreamgirls. Mr. Johnson got his whole life. We were front row. That's just become our thing. And then I'll say this about my pattern. One of my big patterns lately is that I'll save that point later. I'll get to that in a minute with Othello, because we're going to talk about Othello. But it was a great show. It's worth watching. The show, the one thing I love about Walnut Street Theater is that when they take over a theater and they do a show, they do a really, really popular show that they know is going to sell tickets for a long period of time. So Dreamgirls right now at the Walnut is performing. You can't find that show anywhere else in this area. If you want to see Dreamgirls at Walnut Street Street Theater, it is now from March. It's right now until May 4th. So you got a full month and some change to see this musical. There's no way that you can't see Dreamgirls. It is going for an entire month, and there's still tickets available. But they're selling. Every night, the opening night sold out. I mean, they're selling out like crazy right now. People are going. And what I'll say about Walnut Street Theater, their tickets are very affordable. So if you are a newbie to the theater world, you want to get into the theater world, you want to go to good musicals, I always tell people Dreamgirls is a really great start. I mean, there are some musicals that I call higher upper level theater where it's like, this is a little bit more sophisticated. You can't just go on a limb because it might feel a little too intimidating, a little bit too over the top that you might say, what am I watching? What's going on? So there's some musicals I feel like are very elevated where it's like, maybe this is not the first musical you should see because you might get turned off from Broadway. So I feel like musicals like that, I feel like Hadestown is like that. I feel like certain Shakespeare plays, we'll get to that in a minute, is like that, except Romeo and Juliet. Maybe Julius Caesar, maybe. There are certain, musicals where I feel like are so, very Broadway-esque that you might watch it and go, this is what is going on here. Versus, I do feel like there's some musicals where if you're new to the genre, this is a good start. So I always tell people jukebox musicals like Mamma Mia, like the Michael Jackson musical, like the Tina Turner musical. That's a good way to get people to get familiar with the Broadway culture and in a very musicals in a very fun way. As far as plays go, I always tell people August Wilson plays. Certain August Wilson plays can be a little bit, elevated where some people may not be familiar with that kind of theater. But I would say a show like Fences might be a good start, to get people warmed up for a play culture. But certain plays may be a little too much. I would say popular, playwrights, Arthur Miller plays. Some of Arthur Miller plays might be, a little hard for some people to come into. To see like Death of a Salesman, The Crucible, A View from the Bridge, All My Sons. I love those those not musicals, those are plays. I love those plays personally, but they might be, maybe Death of a Salesman might be a good start, to watch or something. So plays are a little bit interesting within themselves, but I always tell people certain theater shows. Dreamgirls, I feel like, is one of those musicals that if you've never seen a musical, a professional musical, I always tell people shows like Wicked, shows like Dreamgirls are like the easy ways, major Broadway shows to get people to watch outside the jukebox and the movie adaptations. So movie adaptations are like The Lion King, right? Beauty and the Beast, Chicago is a good musical where it started as a musical, but a movie. I think Chicago is a good musical to get people to watch that may not be familiar with the Broadway culture. I always say those are some of the hooks. Phantom of the Opera, I find it debatable. I think certain people might watch Phantom Opera and feel like this is wow, what's going on? And then some people have liked it and loved it. It is universal. Les Miserables, I personally think that is a very Broadway snob-like type of show. If you're not already in the Broadway musical culture, that might come off a little too much. So people might say to me, what are you talking about, Ernest? I'm just saying, even with movies, you might have a friend that may want to watch certain dramas and they're not into like Hollywood or blockbuster or Oscar baity films. And there's some films that might feel a little bit too dry, a little bit too artistic or a little too whatever. And you want to get people to it. Folks know what I'm talking about. When you take people on dates, what's the type of show to watch? If you're on a date and you're taking somebody out or you're going on a date or somebody wants the first time, like when Mr. Johnson and I dated, when we were on dates, I was definitely a theater girl. I am a thespian. I did theater arts in high school. I did it in middle school. Like, I'm into theater. When we first dated, we went, I forget, what was the first show we went to see? And I was like, it was like, once he got into it, he's into it. And now he's into it. But the first show we went to see, that I think we both were able to watch together and enjoy. And I was like, okay, let's find that middle ground. I think, wow, it's been some years, y'all. We've been together for 11 years. I'm trying to think what was the first like show we went to that was just like, this works. I want to say it was Ain't Too Proud to Beg. I think it was Ain't Too Proud to Beg, which was like The Temptations. And it was like a Motown. It was Motown. It was about The Temptations. And I think that was one of our first shows we saw. And it was an easy way because we were familiar with the music. And no, take that back. It was Tina Turner the musical. And we saw it on Broadway. Yes, it was Tina the musical because he loved Tina. He's a Tina Turner fan. It was Tina the musical. That was our first big experience. And so that was how we both liked Tina Turner. And yeah, Tina Turner was the first one. It was Tina the musical. That's what it was. And he had seen some shows in the past, but that was when we got the Broadway bite. It was Tina. It was Tina the musical. Then after that, we saw Ain't Too Proud to Beg, which was in that same jukebox vein. And then we saw Wicked, The Lion King, and then just kind of blossomed from there. With my younger brother, who's at Temple, I wanted to get him adjusted, so we saw a couple of different unique shows. We saw some jukebox type shows that worked in that way. We saw Michael Jackson, MJ the Musical. We saw Book of Mormon. We saw a couple of shows like that. But that's how I eased him into it. Now he could go see any musical at this point. He's into everything. But I think there is a way to get people adjusted to it that has not been. And I think a lot of times my fellow Broadway snobs, we want to just throw people the most toughest, most grainiest, meatiest stuff. And I feel like that's how they fall asleep by intermission. So we got to get people into it. But nonetheless, Dreamgirls was fabulous. You should see the show. Now, back to why I went to Barra Rosa. And for those who already know that area, you know why. So I found out that our Alphaversary dinner was scheduled at the same time. None of the guys, they didn't have a plan for where we was going to go eat. So I threw out Barra Rosa because Barra Rosa is literally a block away from the Walnut Street Theater. So what we did was we did a happy hour that bled into dinner. My Dreamgirl show started at 7:30. So we moved the dinner up to like a happy hour, 5:30 situation. So basically I was able to have an Alphaversary dinner with my frat brothers, have a great dinner, have a good time. The prices were great. And then what was even the bonus perk is that Barra Rosa, for those who like Walnut Street Theater, they do what is called a theater menu, a matinee, like a theater dinner. And what that is, that there are participating restaurants that do this. So if you're going to the Ensemble Theater, Ensemble Arts, you go to a lot of restaurants do this actually. So if you're like someone who goes to a Broadway show, you're somebody who goes to a Broadway show, or you're somebody who likes certain theater shows or whatever. These shows, most of the restaurants nearby a Broadway show offers a theater dinner menu. And so what that means is that they often want you to go to the restaurant and eat there. And let's say you want to eat before the show. They will give you a special menu that is a fast-paced 3-course menu that will allow you to eat and get to your show on time without missing it. And it's typically next to the theater itself. So, for example, let's say that you're going to a show, and let's say the show starts at 8:00. A lot of times these restaurants will start their dinner at 5:00 or 6:00. So that gives you a nice amount of time to get, have your dinner early and not be late for your show, or get your tickets early, whatever. And so they'll start their seatings around the 5:00 hour, and they will do a special. And the special will be like a 3-course, and it will give you affordable price. And it's a way that they know that the dishes on that menu are cooked in a way that will get you out. So the theater menu is not the general menu. It's specific dishes that they know will be cooked and made in time that will allow you to get to your destination for dinner. So what was cool about this is that they will offer that menu to anybody who comes to you can get entree or you can get the theater menu. And it's offered to anybody, whether they're going to the show or not. You don't got to show your your musical tickets or whatever like that. You could just do that. So what was cool was that because we had it on the day of that show, Barra Rosa had a 3-course prefix menu that was only $50. You get an appetizer, you get a main course, and dessert. So it was like a prefix menu that I was able to have for my whole entire table. And most of them did the menu. And it was great because they were all like, wow, all of us, 13 of us at a big ass table, were able to get a $50 prefix menu. And we're in Center City, and everybody's got good parking. It was the win-win situation, and I got to see my show on time. Look at me, just making life so effortless and perfect. No, I'm joking, but still, it was a coincidence, but it worked out. So yeah, like, just if you can, try to go for that, And listen, even if low key, even if you're not going to go see a show, but you want to go to a restaurant that's nearby a theater, Try to get on one of those prefix menus that they have, because they offer it regardless of whether you see the show or not. But you might have to come a little early. But if you want that happy hour that bleeds into dinner situation, try to hop on that. That's a pro tip. I do that a lot in New York. When I go to New York and I'm going to see a show, I will hit up one of those nearby restaurants and get one of those prefix menus, because New York New York can be overpriced, y'all. It can be really ridiculously expensive or just crazy. But these are like the little hacks that I do to take advantage and also get a chance to get to see a good show and not have to break a leg. So I always encourage people that those theaters nearby, restaurants nearby theaters oftentimes offer these types of deals. And they do it because one, it keeps business afloat, and also it's a way for them to just, get people to get exposure to their food anyway. So Bear Rosa does that a lot. They're going to be doing that a lot because Dreamgirls is in town for like a whole month. So if you have not been to Bear Rosa, slide up in there and take advantage. But yeah, it was a great show, nonetheless. I've been on a really crazy show crave. I'm seeing & Juliet later this week at the Kimmel. I've heard good things about it from friends. It's like a fun jukebox musical, but it's set with a Shakespearean undertone. It's Romeo and Juliet, basically, but they're using popular pop songs to tell the story, which is kind of unique and crazy within itself. So I'm seeing & Juliet by Ensemble Arts. I have to stop saying Kimmel, but I can't help myself. It's like when people say Fashion District and it's really the gallery, but it's the Fashion District now, but it's really still the gallery. I think they're going to have a hard time getting people not to say Kimmel because it's been Kimmel for 5,000 years. But Ensemble Arts, right? Which is not a new theater company. It's just a new way that Kimmel, like, listen, it was hard for me to stop saying Kimmel Center because they were saying Kimmel Cultural Campus, and that shit was weird. So I just said Kimmel. Now we don't use Kimmel, we use Ensemble Arts. It's like, oh my goodness, all this consolidation, my goodness. But nonetheless, I cannot wait to see & Juliet this week. I've heard good things. My lit brother, George, Dr. Gio, saw it and had nothing but good things to say. So I'm feeling that. I'm looking forward to seeing what they got cooking over there at Ensemble Arts. So Dreamgirls & Juliet was, those are coming up the pipeline. What do I want to... So there's been a lot of celebrity outings in Philly this past week. Domingo Coleman came, which was because he got a resolution by Philadelphia City Council. And my good friend, State Representative Andre D. Carroll, proposed a resolution honoring Bayard Rustin with Rustin Day, which is March 17th. So moving forward, Bayard Rustin Day is March 17th. He is a historic figure in Pennsylvania. He is a Black queer civil rights icon. He was responsible for the March on Washington. He, served alongside leaders like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who is a proud, eternal, fraternal brother of Alpha Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. So, it's always good stock. But Bayard Rustin, what's interesting? I don't know if you all know this, but Bayard Rustin has always been an openly proud gay man. But do you know that he is a member of Omega Psi Phi fraternity? He is a Q. Did y'all know that? Bayard Rustin was a Q. I'm just going to leave it there. For those who are in divine non-culture and know why that is interesting within itself, I'm just going to leave that there. But yes, he's a member of Omega Phi Psi fraternity Incorporated. Shout out to him. But anywho, Domingo Coleman played Bayard Rustin. He got his first Oscar nomination for playing Bayard Rustin in the biopic Rustin, which is on Netflix if you haven't seen it. Very great performance. And he also got a Best Lead Actor nomination this year for playing in Sing Sing. So Rue Landau, who is City Council's first openly gay elected first openly gay elected City Council member in Philadelphia. And I have to say openly because, yes, there's been people like John C. Anderson serving on City Council, but he wasn't out when he got elected and served in that role. He was not out then, but he came out many years later in his life. He was a big mentor to former Mayor Michael Nutter. So there's some history there. And the John C. Anderson House, which provides housing for LGBTQ, elders, is in the neighborhood. So just some fun history there. And he's a Black gay man, by the way. RIP. But Rue Landau is the first openly gay elected city council member. And she created a resolution honoring Domingo Coleman on, he's a Philadelphia native. He lived in West Philly, baby. He is a Philadelphia. He's a Temple alum. It's interesting that Temple alum has been getting a lot of love by the Oscars. Divine Joy Reid, Randolph, she won an Oscar Best Supporting Actress for The Hangovers. And that was literally last year, and she was a Temple alum. So Divine Joy Randolph, she was in that great show, The Holdovers, not The Hangovers. Sorry, The Holdovers was that, and then she got an Emmy nomination. She's been nominated for a Tony. She's, Divine Joy Randolph is that girl. Tony nominated. She won an Oscar. She's got an Emmy nomination. She's that girl. 38 years old, doing her thing. She's a Philadelphia native herself. She got her master's, her MFA from Yale, got her bachelor's from Temple in acting. She's doing the damn thing. And so Temple, the Temple actors and actresses, they doing their thing, But he went to Temple, got a large crowd to see him. I tried to see him. My brother knew he was there. But he, Temple's doing a thing for the Black actors and actresses. It's becoming a hub. But he got honored by City Council. He did not show up to City Council through the traditional City Council chamber sessions, but he came to City Council for a private meet and greet. And of course, when I'm going in Ohio, but my husband, Mr. Johnson, got a photo with Domingo Coleman. I was like, lucky. He got a photo, and of course, Andre Carroll and Rue, they got photos and got to meet him and everything. And I'm just like, see, the one time I'm not at City Council, that's when y'all want to cut up. But yeah, he was there. And what's funny is everyone says that Mr. Johnson resembles him to some kind of way. I see that they could be distant cousins. I could see the relation there. But you all have been trying to say he looks like a lot of people. There's an older lady that say he favors Kirk Franklin, which is hilarious. There was the Russell Westbrook allegations at some point when he was much fuller in the face. They said that he kind of favored Russell Wilson, not Westbrook. Russell Wilson, not Westbrook. Russell Wilson. There's a lot of y'all that say he would be looking like certain people. I think the Domingo Coleman relative thing works. There is a certain style. I can see they could be relatives. Kirk Franklin, I don't know. I don't see it. Maybe slightly. Maybe a slight look. Maybe. But yeah, it's funny. Y'all just think all the Black men look alike. No one ever tells me I look like anyone. Well, and I went to Great Britain, people said there was some looks. I know a lot of people thought that I looked like Steve Urkel at one point in time, which I so hardly disagree with. I don't know where that came from. But I guess when I was younger, first of all, my eyes, I don't have the bug eyes. But whatever, I digress. I think I look just like me. People need to be like, that person looks like Ernest. Ernest has a signature look, but I digress. Will Smith, of course, came to Philly. There was a street renaming for him in West Philly, Overbrook. We know he's from West Philadelphia, born and raised. There's a street renaming. We're going to talk about his new album in a minute based on true story. We'll talk about that later in the podcast. But he didn't make his rounds in Philly as well. But there was a lot of celebrity sightings. I was nowhere to be found because I went to Ohio. I went to Cleveland. And you all know I went to Cleveland, Ohio, for my surprise, right? I did a pilot episode taping of a new show that's in the works called Canceled, that is inspired by the topic of my book, The Case for Cancel Culture, about canceled folks. You all saw that I did my taping episode alongside, and I did it with the legend, the man, the myth, okay? The man who I grew up watching. See, I am so fortunate that I've been able to grow up and see and interact with people that, I have been fortunate enough to be amongst icons and people that I look up to in the industry. I've met Maury Povich. I've had that exchange. Oprah, of course. Ariana Huffington, Byron Allen, and now Chris Hansen, which I grew up watching Chris Hansen's To Catch a Predator. Like, I think millennials, we all know who Chris Hansen is, right? And so to be able to have this experience with Chris Hansen, I won't get to details about what the episode's about, how he's connected to it. I can't actually. And so I have to respect, the importance of discretion. But it is an interesting show. It is an interesting episode. And I think you all are going to really enjoy this show. There are a lot of surprise personalities, media personalities, and people that are a part of it. I cannot speak into details about the setup and everything like that. All I want to say is that this show, there's nothing like this show. When this show, I know it's going to get picked up. I know that it's going to, it's going to be out for distribution and things. When this show runs, a lot of you all will be talking about it. I definitely see some viral clips. I see clips of episode moments and clips going out on the internet. It is a unique show. The way that the show is designed and done, it's going to be an interesting show. And so I was happy to do an episode of the show canceled. And yeah, it's going to be fun. And I just love the fact, like, I've always saw this book. I always saw this topic. I always saw this growing into something bigger than just where it is. And to see it become something and grow, I'm excited to be an expert that informs and to weigh in and to do it. Like, it's so exciting. But yes, I know. Now for my close friends, we'll talk off record. But everybody else, stay tuned. It's going to be great. I think we might be, don't quote me on this, but I think we might be running the episodes. They might be running it through one outlet or stream in the next couple of months, like maybe the next month or two. Don't quote me on that, but they might do that before they sell the pilot fully. But I don't know all the details. So you all might be seeing this show sooner rather than later. But I know the goal is to pilot it and then get it picked up. And I definitely think it will get picked up because the nature of the show, the type of people that we have on the show, there are some, let me just tell y'all right now, there are some very familiar faces, cases, and stories that you're going to be like, oh shit, they got this person on there. Yes, it is. I'm just going to leave it there. It is good. This is a good show. And you are not ready. You're not ready. And you're not even ready for it's good TV. If you thought my performance and my appearance on Dr. Phil was spicy, wait till you see this show. But shameless plug. Now, Cleveland was fabulous. I flew out first class. I will say Cleveland, Ohio is a very chill city. I enjoyed the food there. The one thing I will remember about Cleveland that stuck with me the most was the food. The food was affordable, good ass food, and the prices were not crazy. I went to some nice restaurants, okay, really nice Italian restaurants, some really great, new American restaurants. And one thing I have to say about Cleveland, a lot of your entrees were under $30, and I can thank you for that. Let me say that let me be very clear. These were nice upscale restaurants, and their entrees, I'm talking short rib dishes, steak dishes, you name it. A lot of their major entree dishes were under $30. So I just know Ohio. I know Ohio is a red state. I know that there's a lot of conservatives, but the food prices, baby, I will say that was impressive. You could really eat your way through. You could really have a good time at an Ohio restaurant, okay, and not have to, feel like it. I was impressed. The portion sizes were immaculate. And in this day and age, y'all, in this world of inflation or shrinkflation, I must say, I am judging restaurants by y'all portion sizes, okay? I am a size girl. I am a size queen when it comes to, I walked myself into that, but whatever. I am a size queen when it comes to portions at restaurants. Now, if you got a small portion size, you better have multiple. You better be a multiple. You better be a multiple. Plate girl. Okay, it better be a prefix menu. It better be 5 rounds. It better be. I'm sorry, not rounds. Well, listen. If I'm trying to keep. Well, this is rated. This is for adult and mature audiences only. Okay. Let me say this, just hypothetically speaking, but you can use this metaphor however you want. If you got a size and your size is not, your portion size. We're talking about food, okay? But let's just say that if you got small portion size, you better be able to go for multiple rounds because you better have frequency, high frequency. And so I don't mind a small size. I mean, back in my, I'm fortunate enough as that I'm a big portion size that will do the job and put me to sleep. And I'm talking about food. I don't know get your head out the gutter. But if you got a big portion size at a restaurant and you're a restaurant with a big portion size and you do it, you hit me real good with the good size, the good food, the good duration. I can be able to have a good full course meal that gives me the itis and put me to sleep and knock me out. I will take that any day. That we love a good full plated meal, a big size portion with good girth and good longevity and an amount of you giving me good meat. You giving me you giving me, good grain, whole grain, rice and pasta, long strain noodle portion size, very, very wholesome, portion share. And it's so good that when I'm done with that meal, I'm ready to go to sleep. I am full. I don't need no more. And you might be an Italian restaurant or a really good black-owned restaurant that got real good, portions, and you just a good home cooked meal that could put me to sleep. And then you get greedy because you might say, you want some more? You sure you got enough? And I'm like, oh no, trust me, I am full. I've always said, sidebar, that in my alternative career universe, I could be a comedian. That comedy is something that I've always been passionate about doing. Who knows? Maybe down the road I might do comedy. I don't know. But I've always been interested in being a comedian. I find myself telling really good humorous stories, and that comedy is something I would love to do as a fun hobby somewhere. Just like when I did food writing, it was fun. Who knows? But anyway, I do think portion sizes in that regard at restaurants matter. Now, if you, however, have small portion, okay, you a small dish. Ain't no shame with that. You better be willing to go multiple rounds, though. You better be willing to serve multiple courses. Small plates, but you got seven courses in you. That could be acceptable. You just gotta be willing to put some extra work in it. You gotta have extra ingredients. You gotta give me more razzle dazzle. You gotta have tricks that the big portion don't have. You know what I'm saying? Like a small course, got caviar. It's gonna give me a little slice of this really good rare Wagyu beef on it. You got a little Wagyu slice, but it's Wagyu. Okay, you doing some extra tricks. You gonna add some flair and some razzle. You gonna come out with some truffle. Okay, we could do that if you're doing that multiple rounds. I can take that if your portion size is small. I'm talking about food. I'm not talking about metaphors, but I'm just saying, if you dealing with people that's either, what kind of person you dating? Are you dating a big portion course dude, or are you dating a prefix menu dude? Either way, you better get some enjoyment out of it. And there's ways to get enjoyment out of both. Okay, let me just say that there is ways to get enjoyment. But if you are a prefix menu, you better razzle and dazzle. You can't be a small plate person and don't have multiple courses. You better be giving multiple rounds. And you better be having good ingredients. You can't be cheap with it either. I'm not saying that you get that big portion cheap meals, but listen, sometimes a really good home cooked meal with a good portion price, with a good size, you can tolerate a little bit different with that. But if you a small plate that's expensive, you better be giving some other things with it though. I'm talking about food. But I am a portion size queen though. But I am adjustable based on what the situation is giving. But yes, Cleveland would be a place. Let me be quiet. Cleveland was giving big portions, cheap prices, and great times. So I really enjoyed myself there. Now, because I can't tell the details about this show and get into all the mess and the spiciness because, I got to hold something to save some suspense. My experience traveling to Cleveland was probably the best traveling experience. And the reason why I was enhanced, not was because of the first class flight, that was fabulous as well, but because of the Admirable Club membership that I now have, because I now have the new American, credit card, black card situation. They got executive card or whatever they call it. I now have upgraded to this card, which allows me access to the Admirals Club, which is basically American Airlines private club for travelers that travel, and whatever. So I love Admirals Club. As a result, I have access to going to the room. And so apparently if you at American Airline, if you are traveling, you can go to the Admirals Club for a all day pass. That is apparently, I believe, $70 for the all day pass. But it's if you are not a member of the club, but that's only available if the club isn't at capacity. If you're in a major city like Philadelphia or Chicago or any of those type of places, there may not be availability because because that is the Philadelphia International Airport, New York, LaGuardia, those are major places. So they may not even give you availability to the club for a $70 pass if you want to go there and do work or whatever, if you're at the airport. And the only way you get access to it is if you're riding American. So you have to be riding American and you have to be able to show proof of American travel pass. So, if you're at the airport. Now, the new trick that I am doing now is that in the past, I used to remember I used to always tell y'all that I never wanted to be at the airport that long because one, the airport is tempting because they want you to spend money. So if you're at an airport hours early for your flight, you get trapped because then you're spending $5 for a bottle of water. You're buying overpriced food that isn't worth it. You're just there lingering around. So you're tempted to spend more money at the airport, capitalism. But now, because I have Admirable Club access, I now I went to my flight to Cleveland. I went like 2 hours early and had a full lounge experience that was worth it. I mean, there was open bar. They have complimentary craft cocktails that they make. They have all these snacks that you can take with you. They have breakfast buffet. They have a snack bar. I mean, they have free Wi-Fi. They have a business executive room where you could do office work and there's computers and things available and office space available. There's great Wi-Fi. There's cushioning seating. There's a bar area for you to watch the game. There's also a lounge area to take calls. There's all types of things. They got La Colombe coffee bar. I don't drink coffee, but it's great. They have a macaroon station for desserts and brownies and treats. I mean, it is fabulous. It is another level. That is another level. And so now I'm like, I don't know. I want to take as many flights and travel as much as possible now because I'm in a lap of luxury. Like, this is how they do it. I'm like, I get it. I'm that girl. You talking to somebody that 2 years ago, before my book came out, I used to go to the airport maybe twice a year. I hated the airport. I hated traveling. I hate flying. Now I want to like the whole traveling experience alone. I'm into it. I've become someone different. Like, I'm getting brand new. But I love it. I definitely love it. And so if you are American Airlines, the goal is, okay, for my friends, if we do trips, like the Lit Brothers, we're going to see Cowboy Carter in Chicago. We're going to see Beyonce. This is what we do. I got the boys. I'm trying to get them to get on American. We're trying to do the same flight to American same time. Now, I'm the only one in the group that I believe have Admirable Club access. They allow you to bring guests with you. If they're with you and they're on the same flight or they're riding the same flight American, if you're an Admiral Club member, you can bring guests with you. So let me just start by saying, to my brother, that when we make these trips and we travel and we going home or whatever for the holidays and stuff, let's take these flights together because we can all have the Admiral Club experience together. We can go early. We can do breakfast. We can do lunch or whatever. And the one cool thing I also like is that when I get off the flight, I sneak my ass over to the club and get some snacks. Like, when I came back to Philly, my flight was early as hell. It was like a 9 a.m. I got back to Philly at like 9 a.m., I believe, or something like that. When I got back to Philly, before I left, I said, it's breakfast time. Let me take my ass to the Admiral Club and get me a breakfast and walk out there with some Chobani yogurts and some snacks since I'm already here. So that was a cool little thing. So even when you leave out, you can stop by the Admiral Club if you get there at a decent time. You might be able to grab you some dinner or something else as you wait for baggage claim or whatever. Like, there's little perks that, before you wait for baggage claim or do all that, you can get you some snacks and get you some things. So I mean, the sky's the limit, y'all. I mean, you know, you can do a couple of cool little things while you there. So I see all types of perks and benefits across the board with Admiral Club, and I just want people to know that there's some opportunities, there's some possibilities there. Don't just take it for granted. Don't sleep on it. There's all kind of cool benefits and perks to doing it. So if you're somebody who didn't know about the club, want to invest in it, you can pay for membership. If you are an Advantage Club member, I think it's like $800 or $600 a year. My membership came free with the credit card upgrade that I got because of my points and my miles. But if this is something interesting, you do travel a lot, it might be worth the investment because, to be honest, one thing I do like about it is that I don't have to pay for snacks and buy anything anymore. Like, that was my thing. I used to go to restaurants and do all this stuff at the airport. Now I don't do that anymore. Like, I'm not going to waste any money at any airports buying food or restaurants. There's a lot of major cities that have the Admiral Club, not just Philadelphia, Chicago, New York, St. Louis, LA. All these cities have this. Even outside London has it. Heathrow Airport has Admiral Club. So if I go back to London, y'all, because that might happen. If I go back to London, baby, I'm gonna do Admiral Club. I'm gonna do that because even when I went to London, I was doing English breakfast and all that. Now I can do it in Admirals Club. Now they got it all across the world, international with it. So I highly recommend it for my American Airlines travelers, folks that do this. Take full advantage of these opportunities and these perks. Just saying. This is gonna be an episode for sure. There's a lot to talk about. I got a lot to catch up on. What else? I think I got. Oh, speaking of clubs, I am a member of the Pyramid Club. You all saw my social media post about it. Yes, I'm a member of the Pyramid Club. If you're interested in being a member, you want a referral, there are some special rates and things going on. I'm an ambassador for them. If you want to know more, there are some competitive rates that are far better, in my opinion, than what the Fiddler Club is offering. Yeah, I threw some shade, but here we are. If you're interested in the Pyramid Club and you're in Philadelphia area, hit me up. I can referral you, get you on a really, really, really incredible rate. I'm talking really ridiculous. If you're interested, I know a couple of y'all was talking about the Pyramid Club. You were trying to figure out whether you should do Fiddler or some of these other clubs. DM me. Pyramid Club is where to go. If you like to golf, there's opportunities for free golfing across the country. This membership transfer to other places outside of Philadelphia. So if you go to DC a lot, there's a referral. There's a transferability within DC, within New York, other clubs across the country. So if you're a member of the Pyramid Club in Philly, if you're traveling to DC, if you're traveling to other parts, you get those benefits of other clubs nearby and those other special rates, and it applies to you as well. If you're into golfing and things like that, there's also free golf opportunities as well for my golfers. There's all types of benefits, perks, credits, everything, you name it. If you're seriously interested in it, let me know, and I will refer you as a member and get you set up. So yeah, I want to put that shameless plug. I did dinner with my Lit Brothers and Lit Lauren. It was myself, Dr. Gio, Jamarcus, and myself. We had dinner, up top, and just had a really fabulous time on Friday night. And I look forward to having lunches with my friends. And for my friends that's coming to Philly, let me know. We could do dinner, we could do lunch, we could do happy hour at the Pyramid Club on me, drinks on me, food on me, because I'm a member. So let me know, all my out of town folks. We can do something there. And just have a good time up top looking down. So you just want to put that plug there. Other things, of course, here we are. The moment you all been waiting for. Othello. Let's talk about it. So Saturday, I did it, y'all. I bit the bullet. $921. Front row seats. I saw Denzel Washington and Jake Gyllenhaal in Othello on Broadway. It was this was opening week, so the show just became officially opened this week on Broadway. The previous weeks were previews and all that jazz, but this was opening week. I saw Othello. Opening week. Front row. Saturday, I got the Saturday show because, this is the thing. My plan was to come in and come out. And listen, New York, I see what y'all doing, New York. It was in and out, baby. I took a Acela, I landed in and got out. Okay, because if I would have saw the Saturday night show, first of all, that would have been all night. I would have had to get a hotel. I would have to do all that kind of stuff. We do quick train. I have a lot of Amtrak miles and points. I was in and out, baby. That Philly to New York situation is real cheap, real affordable. Got me a quick little train ride, scheduled it properly. Was at the Monahan train rant lounge, ate some food there, snuck some little snacks. But I made it a point to go in and go out, okay? New York wasn't going to get me. I had found my hacks to get in New York and not get caught up by all the lure and all the overpricedness of it all. Saw the show. I liked the show. It was worth it. But I have things I want to let you all know coming into the situation, okay? Because I know that a lot of folks want to do this Broadway experience. But see, Broadway is a different beast. It's not the Walnut Theater. It's not the ensemble arts. Broadway does not care whether you are a newbie or an old school girl. They expect a level of etiquette and a lot of preparation to know what you're getting into before you get into it, okay? One thing about Broadway don't care. The tickets are more expensive. The situation and setup is a lot different, okay? And I want to bring this up that, some people might say that front row seat, why you crazy, Ernest? Let me tell y'all something. You judge your cat, okay? Debate your cat about it. Let me tell y'all something. The way that y'all go crazy over these goddamn Super Bowl tickets and these sports tickets and these shows, Broadway for me as a gay is like sports and season passes are for a straight, okay? I don't have season passes to see the 76ers or to see the Eagles, but I have season passes and I got perks to see ensemble arts, okay, to see shows, okay? This is what it is for me. This is what I love to see. This is art. This is worth it to me. This is the versatility and range. This makes sense to me. The way that y'all want to do court seats to see, y'all want to get courtside seats to see, LeBron James play for the Lakers. This is how it was to see Denzel Washington, to see a GOAT perform, okay? A Shakespeare play on Broadway, okay? That's what it is for me. So just like y'all want to spend crazy tickets to see courtside, see, this is the problem. Y'all have no taste. Y'all have no art. Y'all have no couth. Y'all have no range. Y'all are like, ooh, it's crazy. $920 to see da-da-da. Baby, how much does it cost on courtside to see LeBron James, to see some of these major games? This is what it is. If you put yourself in that metaphor, you'll realize that it's not that crazy. Okay? Just want to put that out there. Now, arguably, most Broadway shows do not cost as much. They're not that expensive, or they don't carry that kind of ilk, right? But this is very different. And I will break down why. So, for starters, let me explain. Before you get into this and you get inspired and you want to drop some money and go see Othello, because this show is running till June with these actors. It is a limited run, which makes it even more important to want to see this show. Othello will not be on Broadway that long, but it's a limited run. And with Denzel and Jake Gyllenhaal, it is important, right? So let me explain the situation with this show. They're not taking no late entry. If you try to come on CPT time and you show up late or whatever like that, they won't let you in. And they don't care if you bought a ticket or not, okay? You cannot come to this late. So all these people, all of y'all want to be late and punctual and makeup and all that, they will tell you at the door, no late entry. They don't give a fuck. You will lose your money. You lose your shit. Plan fucking accordingly. Let me just tell y'all that right now. Uber, traffic, trying to take subway trains, all that kind of shit. Plan accordingly. If you're a person that likes to be late and always tardy, this is the type of show they don't give a fuck. Plan accordingly. Let me just start off with that, okay? And if you're dating someone or friends with somebody that can't ever show up to anything on time, you say 6 o'clock, they always running late, don't go see this show with them. Just telling you right now. Don't see it with them unless you're physically with them, you're grabbing their hand. I got certain friends, no shade, love y'all down, but I will never see a Broadway show with you unless we are physically together. I will never see a show with you. Love you down, but you're always fucking late. You're always late. You're just always late. And I will never see a show with you. And there's no shade, no disrespect. Love you. We'll do other things with you. We'll go eat out to dinner with you because you're late for a reservation all the time. We'll do that with you. But I don't play about Broadway. I don't play about my plays. I don't play about my musicals. There are some people I will never see a show with because they're just late. Unless we are literally together. Unless we are physically together. Like, we're like together. We're taking the train. We're doing the thing together. I will do that. I will do that. But the whole meet me there, no, I will not do it. I will not meet you there. You will have to be with me already. And if we're not going to the show together, we are not doing the show together. just letting you know. Because I saw some things happen at this show that was heartbreaking. There were some people that I literally saw cursing their spouse out, cursing their friend out, being like, get your ass the fuck here. I seen people be like, I'm going in the show. My friend didn't come. They late. Fuck them. They gon' have to whatever. I witnessed this happen. I said, that couldn't be my friend, girl. So let me just let you know that this is the type of show that's unforgiving. And it's also because they want to create an experience where I fucks with them. The show, no one likes seeing a show where people keep getting up and leaving and coming in and all that, interrupting the flow. Don't be that person. This is a very intimate Broadway experience. So that's a big one. No late appearances. Once the show starts, the show fucking starts. So let me be very clear. They open doors 40 minutes before the show. When I tell you the show started at 2:00, I had my Amtrak train drop me off. I arrived in at 12:30. 12:30 is when my train came into New York. The show started at 2:00. My Uber got me to the theater roughly around 1:00-ish. I was in that line at 1:05. And by the time I got seated around, they finally started opening the doors. I got seated around 1:30. I sat in my seat. I was ready. I was poised. I was ready. Okay? Let me just start off with that. The rules are strict. The second thing that I do appreciate about this show, there is no photography or cell phone usage or anything allowed. And let me explain further what they do. They make everyone power their cell phones off and put it in a pouch. And so there's these little cool pouches where they're electronic pouches where you turn your phone off, the phone is turned off, and the pouch locks the phone in. Now you have your phone with you in your pouch with you. They don't take your phone away from you. But what they do is they make you turn off the phone and put it in the pouch, and they lock the pouch, and you cannot open the pouch. Like, the pouch is the way they locked it and sealed it, there's no way for you to be able to get access to your phone until the end of the show when the security person has the pouch opener and they open the pouch out. So they unlock the pouch once you leave. That prevents the phone from going off. That prevents from people recording, for phones going off. When I tell you that this was the most quiet, seamlessly silent show I've ever been to, the most peaceful Broadway experience I've ever had in my entire life. Because people will have ringers. So it's so fucking annoying. Like, people just don't know how to turn it. Even when the whole idea of turn your phone on silent, there's always that motherfucker in the show that will have the phone ring or come off. It's so annoying. Turn the phone off. Give yourself life for 2 hours. Can we at least, or wait till the fucking intermission? Just give yourself, can you not sit without your phone for an hour? Because intermission, they let you go and unlock the phone, that 10 minutes, that 15 minutes, whatever, let you take a bathroom break, whatever. They let you do that. Can you not simply, for an hour, watch a show without a cell phone present or be distracted? So I enjoy that about it. The other thing, so they're big on that. And if you ain't trying to abide by that or whatever, then you can't go to the show. Okay, if you're a cell phone addict, you gotta have your cell phone, you gotta step out. No. The other thing that I also like about this show, and this is a big one too, there is no reseating. So if you step outside that theater, you're not coming back. They will not let you come back inside. So for those who got bladder, rest, listen, hold it or be responsible before you go. So if you're one of those people, do not come in there drinking a bunch of water, drinking a bunch of coffee, eating a bunch of crazy things, and then go into this show. If you can't hold it until the intermission, then don't do anything crazy where you got to keep getting up and getting out, okay? Don't be that person. Because that actually happened where I think there was somebody who, for whatever reason, wanted to step out the show. For whatever reason. And they stepped out the show and they couldn't come back. So you done missed the second half of the show because you out here can't hold X, Y, Z thing. So I encourage people to be responsible with their bladders and with their body. Because when that stuff goes down, it goes down, okay? So those are the things I want you to know up front about Othello. And also, not just Othello, but a lot of these Broadway shows. Now, let me be clear. Not all these rules apply to all the Broadway shows. A lot of these Broadway shows have different loose rules. But I do think moving forward, this is a good skill to practice when going to these types of shows. Because it is an inconvenience to have to get up or whatever. So the beautiful thing about going to see this show is that once everybody was seated, there was no getting up. There was no going in and out. There was none of that. And I can appreciate that. And the reason why I think they did that for this show, because I don't want to tell too many details, is because a lot of the show has situations where the actors are coming in and out the role of the theater. So if you got people getting up in the middle of the show and leaving and in and out, that interrupts the actual actors from their ability to come up and down through the rows of the stage and do certain things throughout the show. So I understood the logistics of that. But to be honest, I was in the theater with over 1,000 people that was able to respect that. And you know what? Most of the seats and people were there. The seats were filled and people respected the ambiance of the show. I also think they did that because there's a lot of famous people that is coming to see Othello. Like, I will tell you that in my room, in my row, and in my theater, in that theater with my experience and my showing, there was some famous people up in there, y'all. And the thing is, you couldn't take pictures. You couldn't use your cell phone and film them and make it uncomfortable. So it was an experience where people was able to watch a show and not feel surveilled. Like, I saw a lot of famous people's kids. I saw a lot of celebrities, like famous people that's like TV anchors, ABC News folks, famous journalists, certain, like I said, there were certain celebrities' kids that I recognized personally, but I didn't want to be a creep and go up and say, "You're so-and-so's daughter." I just minded my business, right? But there was a lot of different who's in the crowd. I will also add that the crowd was very diverse. It was giving Martha's Vineyard money. It was giving, I'm black and I, got a brownstone in Brooklyn. Like, it was giving a lot of like elitism in the crowd. Not elite, well, let me be clear. Not elitism in their personalities, but it was definitely highbrow crowd for sure. Very diverse though, however, okay? Because I keep telling people that money is money, whether it's black or white. And so some people often think that black people don't go to Broadway shows. That's a lie. Rich black people go to Broadway shows. Let me stop. It's not that there's no diversity. It's just that it's wealth diversity. It's rich, but diverse rich, which is still problematic in its own ways in some cases. But let me be very clear. A lot of times there is some really racial stereotypes about black people, how they spend their money, where they go. Let me be very clear. That when we talk about diversity, sometimes we need to talk about social economic diversity. But there's stereotypes that like, oh, certain things are predominantly white or whatever. Broadway is in some cases largely white in certain shows because there's a lack of diversity. But if you have a diverse show, right? Like The Color Purple, Hell's Kitchen, any of these Broadway musicals like Othello, which has a black lead, you will find that the shows are getting more diverse with diverse crowds. However, the socioeconomic diversity may not be there, but there is diversity within that. So, for example, I saw Purpose with my good friend Abel, and I saw it with Barry, Mr. Johnson. I slipped. But I saw it with, my besties and my husband. And one of the things that I've noticed is that in seeing that show, these tickets, these are not movie show tickets, right? But there was a diversity in the crowd. And that is with the type of show it is. If you have an all white play, there's no specks of color, then yeah, it's gonna be white crowds. But that's like movie theaters, y'all. Okay, yeah, some of us, if we're gonna spend 100, I ain't gonna hold you. There is very seldom times nowadays that I go to shows and spend money to see an all-white cast, an all-white play out of my pocket. I'm not about to spend, like, I've seen Gypsy. Gypsy is one of my favorite musicals. But yeah, I'm gonna go see Audrey McDonald play, Mama June Rose. I don't know if I would have spent 500 or whatever plus dollars to see an all-white cast of Gypsy. I don't know. Maybe if it was Meryl Streep in it. But like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think it is very important that people need to understand that diversity does not always speak to economics. And there's a lot of stereotypes and fucked up racism that comes up with people when they talk about this shit. My front row had a very diverse front row, baby. Okay. So let me be clear. Black and brown people are spending $121 to see Denzel, baby. Okay. Just like we will spend that money to go see Beyonce. Huh. So all this talk about, black people ain't gonna spend no money to go see these shows. We will spend it if we see our people. We will spend money like that if our people is there. We will support our community. We will come out our pockets to do that for our people. But we talk about how there's a lack of diversity in ticket goers. No. There's a lack of diversity sometimes in these shows. And so Broadway, I think, has gotten better this season and in recent seasons of diversifying the programming so that they can diversify the audiences. Now, can we talk about the economic diversity, though? Are we making it accessible, not just for black people, but we got those Appalachian, hillbilly elegantly, white folks that would let us go see a Broadway show, perhaps, that don't want to spend $700 on the floor seats. So when I talk about economic diversity, I'm not just talking about black people, because y'all always act like black people ain't got no money. Let's be very clear. White folks ain't got no money either. Okay, we saw who voted for Trump. They voted for Trump because they thought it was going to get economic opportunity, baby. So we gotta talk about this shit a little differently sometimes when we play into certain stereotypes. Okay, just saying. Okay, just saying. Just saying. So, folks, it was diverse. It was a diverse crowd, okay? A diverse rich crowd. There was rich diversity in the room. But nonetheless, it was diverse as far as the crowd going in the tickets. So I just want to lay down the grounding for like the experience itself before I get into it. They do sell snacks. You can't eat the snacks in the theater. They did a really good job of the snack curation though. A lot of snacks that they had were what I call silent snacks, where the chips were not super crunchy. Like they had Pringles, like they had the really soft Pringles that were not noisy. It's really hard to make noise. So there is a culture around soft snacks. Like there's certain snacks that make noise and certain snacks that don't, right? Certain snacks that make you smack and certain snacks that don't, right? So you can eat like gummy candies, like very soft gummy candies are really good. So they had Sour Patch Kids. They had Pringles. They did have like certain soft chewable peanuts, but they didn't have the crazy crunchy type of munchy, crunchy chips and hard chips and kettle chips and things like that. It was very interesting how they picked the snacks for this show. They did serve liquor. They did serve water and things like that, but the drinks were very small portion. So it would really be hard for one to get drunk at a show like that. I mean, they iced them down and things. But they did have snacks, so I did appreciate that. I did take some snacks during the mission and enjoyed. They were a little pricey, okay? So them Pringles, baby, were $7, honey. I didn't even get a drink. I just waited till later to get a cocktail. I don't really need a drink. But I did, yeah. I will say, though, that the metal detectors did not check my bag for snacks. So I did have a bottle of water in my bag, and they did not trip over the bottle of water. So I will say you could bring water in, or was it water? But I did get away with that. So water was fine. I was able to bring water to the show, and they didn't give me that. But if you come in there with a bunch of snacks and munchies, they may flip out. But yeah, experience was good on that front, and so as far as the acoustics, enjoying everything, I really did enjoy it. It was at the Ethel Barrymore Theater. The seats were very comfy. I did enjoy that. Now let's talk about the show itself. Now, I'm going to say this. I'm going to be very clear. If you do not understand Shakespeare vernacular, like how Shakespeare talks, the way that his plays are written and how they are done, then this show might be hard for you to consume. They do not modernize the show in its actual prose and script. They modernize the look of the show, which we'll get into, but they do not modernize. They have not modernized the script in its own way. So they do the art thou, this, thou, that. If you don't understand it and it will flow over your ears, I encourage you to watch some Shakespeare shows, get familiar with the language and the lingo so that it doesn't fall on deaf ears when you do hear it. Take that time to familiarize yourself with it. Also, with Shakespeare shows, I do think it's important. This is not the kind of play. This is a play that's been around for over 400 years. This is not the kind of play where I think you should read the bio synopsis and read into what the show is so you can better appreciate it. I think trying to go in and be like, I've never read it, I never watched it, so I want the suspense. I think that's not a good look. I think you won't appreciate the concept of what the show about until you read the synopsis. With Shakespeare shows, the goal is to watch the performances and see how well they do the characters and how the story plays, rather than trying to be in a sense of suspense and not know what's going on. So if you are going to watch this show, look up what Othello is, the play, read the plot, get into that. This is not a plot. I'm going to tell you a little bit what the show is about. This is not a plot thriller. This has been out for 400 years, child. And to be honest with you, a lot of Shakespeare shows like Hamlet, like Romeo and Juliet has been done where when I tell you the details of this show, you might say, wait a minute, isn't that this show? Isn't that Succession? Isn't that this? A lot of your favorite shows are riffs off of Shakespeare. There is really no ideas new under the sun, baby. A lot of your favorite iconic shows have come after shows like plays by Homer, by people like Shakespeare and others that are Greek tragedies and things, or riffs off of that, right? So either your favorite movies, plays, shows that are out in modern history either are a spin off of Shakespeare shows or plays, or they're a spin off of Greek tragedies and comedies, okay? Like, there's nothing really original from the Sun. And that's okay, because what they do is they remix these stories in their own unique way. They add a new plot twist. They might diversify the cast. They may not necessarily, they might modernize it in ways that are very unseen and unknown. So y'all know that The Lion King is really a riff off of Hamlet. Did y'all know that? Did y'all know that a lot of shows and movies are ripped off of Hamlet? Like a lot of popular TV shows and movies are riffs off of Hamlet in some type of way. A lot of your favorite movies and shows are a riff off of Romeo and Juliet. Even songs come off of that concept of Romeo and Juliet in some type of spin, okay? So star-crossed lovers, baby, that is where that comes from. That reference star-crossed comes from Shakespeare. Two star-crossed lovers. You might even hear popular references that you thought were original that comes from song titles and movies that come from Shakespeare. With Othello, I encourage you to watch or read about this before you go watch this show. Just for starters. So let's talk about Othello. Let's talk about this performance in this show and why I think reviews have been kind of complicated. A lot of reviewers have panned Othello in his production of it. I think that they're wrong. I'm going to tell you why I think they're wrong, but I understand why they feel the way they feel, but I also disagree with them about it. So Othello is a show that is set 400 years ago. It is pretty much about a sergeant who's very respectable. He's Black. And let me be very clear why this is important. In Shakespeare, this is one of Shakespeare's most controversial tragedies. It's a tragedy. It is not a comedy. It's a tragedy. Shakespeare has done comedies, romances, and tragedies. This is a tragedy. So it ends bad, okay? Plot twist. It is not a happy ending. This show is controversial in Shakespeare because the character has always been meant to be Black. Othello is Black, y'all. He is blackity black. If you have an Othello that is not played by a Black actor, then the show should not happen. Now, as a result, because Broadway is racist, this is the first time in 40 years that Othello has been on Broadway. The last time was like in the early 1980s, and it was played, the lead actor was, who played Othello, was James Earl Jones. Which, fun fact, James Earl Jones played in Fences. And guess who played in the revival of Fences as the lead character in Fences? Denzel Washington. Ding, ding, ding. There is a connection. And guess what? James Earl Jones won the Tony for his performance in August Wilson's Fences when he played the lead role. And guess who won the Tony in the revival of Fences in the lead role? Ding, ding, ding. Denzel Washington. So let me just put that in some, and again, my thespianness in this and my inner theater kid comes out. So this was 40 years they've done Othello. And the reason why is because I think
Broadway does not like to have too many musicals or plays with black leads. Also, a lot of racist Shakespearean snobs do not like to talk about Othello and do it because they have to talk about blackness and racism. And Othello's play dealt with this in a certain type of way 400 years ago, and it is a modern. So to see them do this show on Broadway 40 years later is very timely and also very political within itself. But what's interesting about Othello is that there's always been a question about the character. So Iago so the show, let me tell you the show before I get to it. So Iago's white, right? And he's supposed to be white. And the woman, Desmonda, is white as well. The show the play is pretty much about a black sergeant who marries a black woman, a white woman, a black sergeant who marries a white woman who comes into wealth. She's a wealthy woman, and her father cannot believe that her his daughter would marry a Moor. So the word Moor is in many ways a racial pejorative. It's also a way to identify black. That's how they described it, as Moor. It could be some type of dark-skinned, person, because Desmonda is fair-skinned. She's white, and the rest of the people on the show for the most part is white, right? So the term Moor is used as a way to say black in the Shakespeare play. So Shakespeare doesn't say Negro or black. Shakespeare says Moor, and Moor is the replacement word for black. But it's very clear that the character is black, right? And so when the word Moor is used as a pejorative. It's another way of saying, the N-word. And it's a way to describe Othello. So that's always been the theme, the dynamics at play. And so Othello is in many ways this powerful, empowered sergeant that does this work, but he's also an outcaster in his own regard. He's a man who looks up on some level of power. Iago is his servant, his side advisor, that works with him on his lead. Now, here's a fun fact. Y'all want to know something funny? You know why you've heard the term Iago? Because remember Aladdin and Jafar, and the parrot was Iago who advised Jafar. That's a Shakespearean reference, y'all. That's the ding, ding, ding. Iago the parrot in Aladdin. Iago is 400 years ago, was the side commander, the side that served alongside of not Jafar, but and remember Jafar was dark-skinned in Aladdin. Colorism, the bias there. Ding, ding, ding. Making that connection for you right now in this podcast. So Iago in this is white. He is basically a servant advisor to the commander that is Othello, right? And basically he envies Othello. It's always been unclear of what Iago's motivations are. Like, why does he not like him? In my opinion, because I'm going to keep it black, I think Iago was racist, and he basically felt like, why is this black man? Why do I have to serve under this black commander? Okay, it can be viewed that, but other people have played the character very different ways. They say, oh, maybe Iago is jealous that Othello has a better looking wife, and yada yada. It's various ways of how you can deal with Iago's character. But long story short, he's jealous and he has motivations to basically undermine and overthrow Othello. So throughout the entire play, he comes up with crafty ways to do it. And one of the ways that he gets to Othello is that Othello is obsessed with Dominda. He is in love with this white woman, and we can talk about how this is very symbolic of black men in America in power with white women. Okay. It's very deep. I see a deeper meaning to it. But anyway, he is obsessed with his wife, and in many ways, Iago basically weaponizes another commander who is a white man, general or soldier. He weaponizes the relationship in lies and starts gossip to get Othello to basically go after a man named Cassio. So Cassio is this attractive white, soldier who Iago weaponizes the connection and relationship, which is very platonic between Desmonda and Cassio. They are cool with each other. There's a friendship, but Iago, because he wants to overthrow Othello, he weaponized the relationship. And in the end, because there's so many other things that happen, in the end, Othello, completely, goes crazy and goes mad about it, that he kills Desmonda. He tries to get Cassio killed. But he kills Desmonda, which is the love of his life, because he begins to not trust, because Iago is his right-hand man. This is Ace Boon Coon. This is his lit brother, okay? And he sees him as a major, he's the honest Iago. Throughout the whole play, they talk about how Iago's honest. Well, in the end, his madness and rage and his trust in Iago, he finds out it leads him to kill Desmonda because he cannot believe she's betrayed. He tries to get Cassio killed as well because he's like, if she can't do right by me, she can't get freedom. So he tries to kill Cassio and Desmonda. Well, he fails in his attempt to kill Cassio, but he doesn't know that. He kills Desmonda in bed. He strangles her. And then he finds out at the last minute after he kills her that Cassio's still alive, and Cassio reveals that everything's a misunderstanding. Iago betrays him. He finds out, and he finds out all this was a scam. So he kills Iago first. And then with all the shame and guilt, and he finds out the truth, he kills himself in the end. It's tragic, y'all. There's no happy ending. Everyone dies except Cassio. But everybody dies for the most part. It's revenge, it's blood, it's messy. Okay? So there you have it. Now, this show has been done in various theaters and various places. And there is some interesting racial undertones about the play. Is the play racist, or is it addressing racism? Is it racist, or is it addressing racism? Is the play addressing racism, or is the play racist itself? That is the number one question around Othello based on Shakespeare's interpretation. Because historically, when Shakespeare has done this play, one could argue is racist because the play makes Othello this very dumb, aloof, extreme, crazy man that kills a white woman and kills people and kills himself and is rage thirsty over a white woman and kills the white woman and feels bad about it and kills himself, and he's rageful. That is the way that this show can be portrayed. And many historians and play historians have viewed the show could be arguably racist. And that Shakespeare was basically stereotyping a story of this is what happens when you give these Negroes a little taste of power, that it's almost like a fable of like, oh, here's what happens when a black man gets power. He gets the white woman, he gets drunk off of it, and then he turns into, this evil deluged man that kills people and kills himself, right? That's one way of looking at the show. But then someone argued, well, what about Iago? Iago's the liar that basically, tricks him. So some can argue that a black man that's trying to navigate into a white society, that there is always going to be that the white man is looking, or that evil, that there's always that whiteness, even when you try to assimilate into society, that you can never fully fit in. That maybe William Shakespeare was actually making a critique. I don't think he was that deep, but maybe he was. That he was making a critique on black assimilatism in society, that maybe he used a black figure like Othello to be like, maybe he's trying to adjust and navigate society in a way that he finds out in the end that white supremacy and whiteness will kill you, even when you try to adjust, and even if you try to normalize yourself, that maybe the tragedy is that assimilation in this type of way, or trying to desire or seek a proximity to whiteness, will kill you in the end. I don't know. See, I'm deep. I be thinking deep about this shit. But you don't know. You wrestle with that, right? How to interpret it. But I think that Kenny Leon, who is the director, he's a Tony-winning director. He also directed the adaptation of Fences, which, was wonderful. He won the Tony Award for his work. He's done various variations in adaptations. He did Raisin the Sun adaptation. He's a Tony Award-winning black director. I think Kenny Leon tried to go the latter approach and really interpret this in a very specific way that I thought was great. I think people will not get it because the white critics are saying that this is a very mellowed down, underwhelming production. They say that, Denzel Washington tones it in. They all praise Jake Gyllenhaal's performance as Iago and says that it's the more fiery, meaty role. And they basically feel like the show is just like lacking direction. They don't understand what Kenny Leon is trying to do here, and that they miss the Shakespeare way of doing it because, he modernized the show in a certain way. Here's what I think. I think Kenny Leon, and I know Denzel is an actor. Denzel has always been known of not really starring any roles with a white woman. Like most of the time in his movies, he's never really starred opposite of white women in shows. Now he's done that in these Shakespeare shows, like the tragedy Macbeth, he did that. He starred alongside Frances McDormand. His performance in the tragedy Macbeth was incredible. Got him an Oscar nomination as he deserved. I think that in this production, it makes sense. Like, he has always done phenomenal jobs in Shakespeare shows. He did Julius Caesar many years ago. He played Othello at 22 years old, when he was in drama school. I think what people don't understand about Denzel and understanding Kenny Leon is that what Kenny does with this show is he humanizes Othello in a way where he's like, I'm not going to make this guy naive. This is a successful black man who clearly is a general, who clearly is knowledgeable. He trusts Iago because he feels like in his hubris and his ego that Iago is his superior, his inferior. Iago is a white man, and I think in this play, that is playing very well the extreme white extremeness. That in the racism and madness of himself, he's the lone wolf that is like kind of like the way that you could see a terrorist. Like Jake Gyllenhaal is he plays his hair, he got a skin locate, skin bald, skinhead cut. It looks like how he was in the movie Jarhead, which many years ago he played a soldier in Jarhead. He gives that crazy, paranoid, lone wolf, crazy white man energy that I think makes him a fiery character, but it does not work if you do not see the dynamic and the tone tenor of Denzel playing the successful black man that's more reserved and toned down. And if both of them are acting crazy or going mad on stage, you can't appreciate Jake Gyllenhaal's performance because he plays it very well. Jake Gyllenhaal was phenomenal as Iago, but he also leaned into Iago being in many ways a extremeness that is paranoid through his racism and his insecurity. Like, it's very clear to me, at least when I watched the play, through the passive aggressiveness, that Iago finds himself to be more deserving of power than Othello. He doesn't outright say, he talks about how disgusted he's like, I'm more. He says it in many ways because he wants to say in many ways he's saying the N-word, like how dare, he, loses his power to a black person. Like, it's very clear that he envies Othello because Othello is black. Like, he plays into that dynamic, at least in this production, this interpretation. And so he basically is driven by his jealousy and his madness to make this man's life a living hell. So to all the white reviewers and theater critics that are trying to figure out what is the motivation, I'm sorry that you don't understand this because you're also white and you probably are like this in your workplace towards other black writers and reviewers in the industry. But his motivations is simple. He's black. He feels like Othello is inferior to him. And that's how white people, racism does not always have a motive. Racism does not necessarily have a very clear-cut desirability. Sometimes the madness that drives a person to go after somebody is the white supremacy in their head. So I think that that's what drove Iago in Kenny Leon's interpretation of Othello. Now back to Denzel's character. Denzel's character rises to the level of insanity, but humanizes in a way that does make him a rioted and uncontrollable monster. Like, there's this desire in Othello where they make Othello's character this like an animal, like he's just savage and he's just completely bloodthirsty and evil. The way that Denzel humanizes the delusion of this character is more relatable and more realistic to me. It's very clear that he still loves Desmond, but he also, in some ways, feel like there's no other way because at this point, he doesn't trust her, and so she must go, right? And I think that's because of the betrayal of what he thought of a post-racial society. I think that the character believed that a post-racial society meant that he could be successful in this world. And I think he kills himself because the reality of a post-racial society is dead to him. And so he dies with it. You see where I'm going here? My bestie Abel have seen the show too. And I told him I was going to really give him a deep dive thought about why I thought this show worked. Now, The show starts off at the beginning by saying in the near future. In interviews, Kenny Leon says, the director says, that this show is set in 2028 versus being set right now, because he imagines that at that point, politics and things will be adjusted in a way that it's near but not too far away, right? So I think that works. Now, I think will be confusing. Now, my inner thespian will critique certain things. I think that the set design, sometimes the costuming and things get a little confusing. And this is just me nitpicking. I mean, I think, honestly, the show, if you ignore these things, it doesn't really matter. But I do think sometimes it can get confusing about the setting. The setting does confuse the artistic directorial vision that Kenny Leon is trying to do here. So there's sometimes where, the setting refers to ancient Greek and Venetian themes and undertones, but then there's also these very American-esque soldier costumes and settings that sometimes trick the eye into trying to figure out, are we in Greece? Are we in America? Are we in modern America? Or are we still back in the old days? Even though the design says otherwise. So sometimes I do think that some of the Shakespearean, rhetoric does not work with the setting. The setting needs to be, if we're going to be in the near future, let's do that. But can we get the costumes to also adjust and adapt to that framing as well? So sometimes I do think they struggle with that setting and pace, and it can confuse somebody as deep into the play to hold on to that tenor. But the performances, I'll enjoy it. Denzel is great. Jake Gyllenhaal's phenomenal. I think with Tony nominations, it's going to be interesting to see where they place him in the category. I can see a reality where Jake Gyllenhaal gets the Best Lead Actor nomination and they might snub Denzel. Or I can see a situation where they might play, which I don't know how they're going to get away with this, but they put Jake Gyllenhaal in featured actor and they put Denzel in lead for the nomination. Or because they do like celebrities, I can see Denzel and Jake Gyllenhaal both getting the nominations and then canceling each other out for the win. But either way, in these scenarios, I do see Jake Gyllenhaal getting a nomination. I think that doesn't say that Denzel's performance is not great. His performance is great. I don't necessarily know if the Tony voters are going to understand what Denzel did. I think Denzel did something phenomenal with his performance. I think he did a very creative take on Othello, and I can respect it. And I understand why he did it for the racial undertones of the show, but I also understand the modernity of the show and what he does to give the Black dignity and respect to Othello that I think has been missing historically in the interpretation. This is not to say that either performers, that past Black actors who played this role were playing into a stereotype. Arguably, they might have, right? Maybe they were just honoring the actual Shakespearean interpretation of the performance. But I do think to a certain extent, there is a creative liberty that the director, Kenny Leon, and also Denzel do that makes this work in a way that I appreciate it more. And I think you can't appreciate that if you don't actually understand the history of Othello and the production of it. So to all these new critics that when I got something to say about the show, baby, you need to elevate your education about this show. Maybe you don't have the range of Shakespeare theater to understand it and appreciate it. Maybe you don't have the history of understanding how this character has evolved through time. Maybe you don't have the range. So to all these reviewers out here that's dragging this show, I actually have a different interpretation. I think the show works. I think it's phenomenal. And I think more people should actually give this a little bit more respect and more grace than what they're giving it. I enjoyed it. It is a 5-star show for me. The setting could be a little bit better in the interpretations, but nonetheless, I found the performances riveting. I found the bold audacity of Kenny Leon to give it that respects there. And I think there's another argument that needs to be given to this interpretation of Othello than what's being done. There's a reason why most of the theater goers I've seen that have walked out have been impassioned and enthralled by it. And a lot of the Shakespearean folks that I know that follow, especially Black Shakespeare nerds, appreciated the way that this show was done and the dignity and the way that it was done for the Black role and the racial history of Othello in Shakespeare theater. That is my educated, scholarly take on it. You will not probably find this in a lot of the reviews that you're reading because everybody that are panning it are trying to pan it for clickbait. I feel like there is a lot of people that are thirsty to try to get engagement. So because the show tickets are so much, I think everybody wants to give it this very over the top panning because it's so easy to do that because there's going to be money made regardless. And what critics love to do is that when critics, it's hard to pan and trash things in this day and era because a lot of times interpretation of things are always up for grabs. So I think a lot of people feel like it's easy to drag this show because they know that the show is going to still be a box office success, even if it's not a critical darling. And so it's interesting, but I always tell people that when something gets critically panned like this, sometimes you got to wonder who's doing it and why. And I've seen it happen a lot of times. I mean, I remember that initially critics were trying to say that about Anti with Rihanna. They wanted to be like, oh, Rihanna's not doing a good job with Anti. There's no hits on this album. This album is so, blah, blah, blah. And then y'all saw Anti grew on everybody, how it became one of Rihanna's best albums of all time. So critics' early reviews of this, I think history is going to change their thoughts about this as it evolves. We'll see. And then lastly, before I get into hot topics, I know, y'all, I just gave y'all a whole episode within itself with this, but you all want a good episode, and we are closing out March with a bang, so here we go. I just want to put this little reminder out here, and this is just a shameless, not even a shameless plug, but real IDs, y'all. If you don't have your real ID, your real state ID or anything like that, please get that. I'm hearing stories of people being stopped by law enforcement stopping people and, doing some interesting things when it comes to enforcing, checking on people's citizenship dues and things like that. And that has been, concerning to me because a lot of people, are doing, a lot of people have, had these critiques and have said things about, safety around citizenship. Law enforcement is stopping people to verify the citizenship. And even we're seeing situations where people are getting discriminated at the airports in high frequencies. What I'm hearing people say, and I know some people, and I don't want to put names out or anything like that, but they're getting stopped by police, and police are asking, and a regular ID is not being sufficient. People are asking, like, can I see your papers? Like, are you, quote unquote, your birth certificate or proof of citizenship beyond just a regular state ID? Ways that you can prove your citizenship outside of a state ID is having a passport with you. Now, I know some of you all might be like, you know what, passports are just so annoying, right? But you might not have global entry. If you can, get you a passport ID if you don't want to carry your passport with you all the time. Get you a passport ID or have a passport ID with you. I've said this for the longest, but I'll say this again. I didn't think this would happen in the Trump administration. I didn't think we would have another Trump administration, okay? But we're in an era where a lot of people are questioning U.S. citizenship. I used to make the joke a while ago that my U.S. passport ID is my U.S. citizenship ID. I used to joke about that, but now I have a sense that dead ass, this is what it is. If it is possible right now for you, go get you, when you renew your passport, if you have to renew your passport, go ahead and get you a passport ID in that renewal. Not only should renew your passport, if you renew your passport, if you've already renewed it and your passport not expired, whatever, but if you got to renew your passport this year or whatever, renew the passport and get a passport ID along with it. Because that passport ID is a way of proving citizenship without having to show your birth certificate or all that. Because everybody knows in order for you to get a passport, you would have had to have a birth certificate and all that. So for people who don't have passports or don't carry their passports, carrying your birth certificate is that way of doing that. But most people don't. And most folks understand government and everything. They have birth certificate. People don't carry them on them. It gets lost, whatever. But a passport is a way to show proof of that. So even if you're not planning to go abroad, even if you don't plan to go abroad soon, when you update your passport or just get a passport ID, just go get you a passport ID anyway. If you already have a passport, get a passport ID. Because this is what I will tell you is proof of your quote unquote citizenship. and will avoid any unnecessary bullshit in traveling and things of that nature. It's not to say that you won't be okay, but just to break the hassle and annoying circumstances, get you a passport ID. If you have a global entry ID, if you do global entry, that can work for your citizenship as well. Global entry will work as well. So if you got global entry and have a global entry ID, which I think everybody who has global entry has that, have you a global entry ID, that's fine, or have you a U.S. passport ID as well. Or, I don't recommend this, but if you're driving and you got a dashboard or whatever, put your passport in your glove department. But I just say be careful with that, because you know that people do rob cars and go in glove departments and your car can get stolen, and so will your passport. Either way, just keep that on you. Social Security card, people say they use that as well, but Social Security card is a little shaky. I don't necessarily recommend that. I recommend passport ID, passport, global entry ID. Just want people to just have that in mind, because we're entering a different phase now where you just never know, especially if you're in a red state or you're in certain states that's stopping people, you're not in a major U.S. city. Just be safe out there, be mindful. So something on me said to just put that awareness out there to people. Just do that. I have a passport ID. I have a global entry ID. I have a passport, of course. I keep a passport ID on me. So I just want to put that out there, for those who might, be on the fence about it. So just keep that in mind. Now, off to hot topics.
So there's been a lot going on over there in DC and around DC. There has been some interesting leaks that have taken place. And, the signals controversy, if you've been living on a rock, which I don't think anyone has, Jeffrey Goldberg of The Atlantic was outside of a grocery store. He is the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic magazine. And he was going to a Shopway or something like that. I guess that's what they call it over there. But he was in the parking lot, and his Signal, which Signal's an app, by the way, which is funny because a lot of people never knew about this app, and now I feel like everybody know about it. I'm kind of like, damn. But Signal is an app that a lot of journalists use, a lot of activists use, because it's encrypted. It's a very good privacy, app where, pretty much you will never hear of a leak unless. See, we're going to talk about this word leak in a minute, but typically you will never hear of any stories of someone hacking into someone's Signal account or somebody, leaking anything or something, whatever. It's very seldom that doesn't happen actually on Signal. The only way something can leak is if it just doesn't leak. And I think the word leak is a little interesting here because everybody's been using the word leak in regards to this, but we'll get to why the word leak is not the proper word here. But anywho, he gets added to this group chat in the Signal, and basically you have some major players in it. You have you got Mike Walls, who is who's a major leader within the Trump administration that handles a lot of foreign affairs. He's the national security advisor for the United States. Of course, you got, Pete Hedgeswag, who we've talked a lot about him. And there's been some controversies throughout this entire time with him in this situation. He is, Pete Hedgeswag is the United States Secretary of Defense. And then you also have other people, that has been called Russian assets by people like Hillary. Hillary has called this individual, who is really in much way, in many ways, we know Tulsi Gabbard, right? Where Tulsi Gabbard has been considered a problem. She is the United States Director of National Intelligence. So they're on this group chat on Signal, which is really weird that government officials, U.S. government officials, individuals who are involved in government relations,
of this magnitude, foreign affairs, are having secrets on Signal. And this is government information, and this is classified, you know? And it seems like this is a problem, right? Donald Trump and Joe Biden, took top secret documents to their houses. Everybody always wants to talk about Hillary Clinton keeping State Department emails in a personal server. But now the White House then had a journalist in a group chat about bombing Yemen. So what happened here is that security experts, have said that the Signal thread, which is where it was, basically they accidentally included him, and it's sloppy and it's dangerous, to be quite honest. And this is wild because there are computers, right, that are designed to discuss war plans and such secrets. And they're normally only accessible in secure rooms, okay? It is very difficult for foreign powers to penetrate them. You can't bring your personal devices in those rooms. They're not connected to the web, okay? This is all the types of things, right, that's important, right? That kind of security can be, annoying and a little bit cumbersome and whatnot. People can feel like it's a lot, that you cannot be able to scroll through a classified feed while watching, baddies and loving hip hop and all that kind of stuff. But that is what you got to do to keep people safe. Well, what we found out, which is not too much of a shocker, is that we got dumbasses in national security that are breaking the rules and doing what they want to do. And so let me just be very clear to start by saying, I don't ever want to hear about butter emails, Hillary Clinton, her emails again. We're not having that conversation ever again. I don't want to hear any Republican talk about Hillary and Benghazi and the emails and all that. Just let it go. Let it go. Because at this point, y'all are using Signal. Y'all are using a commercial app to relay information. So much that you added Jeffrey Goldberg in. You added an actual journalist who, mind you, The Atlantic has a history of being more of a liberal side. So y'all added a liberal journalist that's been dragging y'all in the press. Y'all didn't brought that outlet to have this exclusive. So he screenshotted all the messages and the receipts. Initially, he did not share and disclose everything that was being said, but basically wrote a piece about how he got added to this chat and how it created a whole uproar. Well, initially, Pete Hegseth and all of them tried to act like there was nothing classified. There was a hearing that was in Congress. There was all these questions, and they tried to act like nothing was classified, and they kept trying to tiptoe on the issue. Well, Jeffrey Goldberg said, well, if it's not classified, I guess I could put it out in the streets. So he revealed the entire thread and information he got. They did retract some detailed information about something in particular, but most of the other correspondence, he said, well, if it's not classified, I guess everybody can see it. Well, basically, one could argue that it's obvious that this is not information that is, in my opinion, should be considered classified. But the Trump administration is so much lying that they won't even, their pride won't allow them to acknowledge they really fucked up. Trump tried to act like it's a little blip in what was a stainless, perfect 2 months of progress and wins and gains and all this other bullshit, which we know is not true. I mean, there is details about them attacking the Houthis in Yemen. And so somebody's head's got to roll. There's been calls for Pete Hegseth to be resigning. There's speculation that, to be clear, Waltz tried to say that, phone numbers, that a phone number got sucked into it. Because he's the one who added Jeffrey Goldberg to the group. And that's what we saw in the chat, how he got added. And then Mike Waltz tried to claim that, he got, the phone number talking about the Signal leak defense, that the number got sucked into the thing. Numbers don't get sucked into group chats, y'all. I mean, anybody who's a millennial Gen Zer knows this. Maybe my boomers and Gen Xers need to know this, but numbers don't get sucked into group chats. That's not how it works. You have to deliberately add someone or click on a box to check a person in, but nothing gets sucked into anything. So, that's gotten shut down, of course, by Jeffrey Goldberg. But yeah, there's been some weird narratives. But according to Politico, in a private meeting, J.D. Vance and some top advisors has suggested Trump oust Waltz. They want Waltz to go. There's a conversation about should he fire him. Now, we all think Pete's Pete Hegseth should get fired. A lot of Democrats and political consultants feel like he should go because this is bad leadership on his part. But I think most of the Republicans are shifting. Leadership is thinking that Walsh should go, even though everybody is saying the issue is a hot potato. But people are thinking that Walsh should go because of the fact that he was the one who added Goldberg to the chat. But then there's speculation that there's a reason why, Trump won't fire him. And does not want to fire him is what people are saying. So part of their reason is that they say that he doesn't want to, his ego won't allow him to do it because he doesn't want to be seen as giving in to Trump, the media. So basically, the argument is that Maggie Haberman, who is a New York Times reporter, she's considered the Trump whisperer. I really don't care much for her personally. I ain't gonna hold you. I find her to be problematic in the way that she has played certain chess pieces. I just feel like when you know something damaging about a powerful elected official, you don't hold details only when it's time to write a book or when it's beneficial to you. You gotta, if you think that the information you have is gonna inform and better incite the people as a journalist, you should work cooperatively and immediately to get that out to the public to help save as many lives as possible or help people. And I just feel like there's some opportunistic journalists that literally sit on. Now, let me be very clear. If it's information that is not harmful or anything that can directly harm people or whatnot, then by all means, you can sit on whatever. Shit happens. But when it comes to information that is timely and essential, and you're sitting on that information and to write a book or do something like that, when it comes to powerful people that can make decisions within a minute or so, I think that is opportunistic, and I don't really have respect for people like that. Because I'll tell you, when I have found out information about certain things, like when I found out about the Krasner thing, walking into the room, I thought that was important for people to know. Whether or not he did it or didn't do it, did he know or not know? But stuff like that's important. When I found the 76ers arena deal was going to SAC, I thought it was very important to let community know about that because the city was sitting on their hands and we don't know what could have happened, right? There could be members of the Chinatown community that might be selling property or giving up or thinking, you know what, I don't want to stay, keep my business open because it's not going to be here. There could have been all kinds of decisions that could have been made in that time that we would have waited to find that information out that could have negatively impacted communities, right? And so it was important to speed the process up and to let people know the truth as soon as possible, especially when it can impact people's lives in a certain way. What if I would have sat up and said, months later, oh, I know, I've been knew this. No one likes the person that when you hear something horrible, they say, oh, I knew that already. It's like, well, if you knew that, why you didn't say nothing, you dumbass? I don't know why people do that. Like, if I know something very harmful, very salacious, like in a way that can create harm, right, to people, I'm never going to flex and go, oh, yeah, I heard about it already. And you did nothing. So you're just as fucking problematic and just stupid like the next person. Like, stuff like that pisses me off. Because it's like with Diddy, I didn't know anything about Diddy until I knew what I knew about Diddy. Let me be very clear. But when there's people that's like, oh, yeah, I know he was doing this for years. I'm like when they talk about the R. Kelly, be like, oh, yeah, I knew that. What is that? How do you feel? Any person that do that to a person, if you knew and you're not going to say, don't say you already know. Don't think it's the flex you think it is, because actually you look like you're complicit and you're part of the problem. No one likes the person that says they know on something that's bad news. Like if there was a layoff. Or somebody got laid off, or you knew there was going to be a massive cutting of jobs or something, and you tell people, yeah, I knew that was coming. You knew? And you said nothing? Interesting. So, yeah, a lot of people are saying that Waltz, as in Mike Waltz, the national security advisor, will not get fired because Trump doesn't want to give in to the media. Apparently, Maggie Haberman has said on CNN that, quote, Trump is very clear that according to a number of people I've spoken to, he does not want to fire someone because he sees that as giving in to the media. Haberman said, she's a political analyst for CNN, how opportunistic. She also ended by saying that people around him see that as weak, and I think you will hear that for a while. Whether this is sustainable for them is another story. At the end of the day, if you got somebody that's fucking up the administration, the media doing their job to report on that fucking up, you not doing anything about it actually make you look worse. But what do I know? I digress. So it's a shit show over there, which is not a surprise, right? It's a shit show. And the fact that the editor-in-chief of a liberal publication like The Atlantic had that scoop is like, those are the type of scoops that's like, whew, what a dream, right? So there's stuff going on there. Moving along, there's been a lot of talk about Trump making some tough decisions, right? He recently cut Elise Stanwyck, who is a congresswoman. She's going to have to stay there. It appears that she's going to have to stay there. She is the representative of New York's 21st Congressional District. It's a big shocker to people because of the fact that Elise Stefanik is her name. He pulled her nomination. She was trying to be, which was a big deal. She wanted to be the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, the UN ambassador, which, if you all remember, Nikki Haley had that role, fun fact. But he pulled that. And it was crazy because, no one saw that happening. And it's created some drama. He went to the White House. He had a Women's History Month event on Wednesday, and he took 6 minutes out of his speech to personally recognize some Republican women. And there was a woman that was in attendance, and that was last Wednesday, was Elise Stefanik. And, she was supposed to be the nominee at the time, and he omitted her out of his speech, even though she was in the room. And people don't know if he purposely chose to do that. But then less than 24 hours later, he announced that he was withdrawing her nomination for the ambassadorship. And the reason why is because he has concerns over the Republicans' razor-thin House majority and the prospect of a special election to fill her seat. Ooh, it's very telling. He said that she's phenomenal. After the fact that he did this, he said on Friday that she's phenomenal. She's number one. She's a friend of mine, but she's very popular in her district, and I didn't want to take a chance, he said. He said, we have a slim margin. We don't want to take any chances. We don't want to experiment. Now, this is weird. If she's really popular in her New York district, right, then he should have kept her as a nomination, because at the end of the day, they were going to have another Republican be in the seat. So what was the fuss, right? Well, there's a reason why. Because there's a lot of, apparently Mike Johnson, who is the Speaker of the House, has been telling Trump, really told him immediately after the November election, to stop plucking members from that House to the new administration. Because each time he do that, that makes the majority margin smaller to get some stuff done, which can then turn some shit over. But then what also happens is there's special elections. And we're starting to see that in certain cases that special elections are leading to people taking over races. There's already been some situations right now where these special elections are flipping seats. So seats that people thought was just going to stay red have been turning to blue. And that's happening all over. Okay. This is a pretty big damn deal. So, for example, in Pennsylvania, you got these Pennsylvania Democrats, James Andrew Malone and Dan Gaunar, who, which is a big deal. The big one is that, in the state house. So there's some serious stuff that took place there. There's also a situation that has happened with state Senate seats, which was a real shocker. Democrat James Andrew Malone beat the Republican nominee from Lancaster County, Commissioner Josh Pearsons, to flip the seat from red to blue. That's never happened in decades. And so we're even seeing the Pennsylvania State Senate, which is hard to flip seats. The fact that in a special election, there was a seat flipped. And so the fact that we're seeing that even happen in Pennsylvania, we're seeing it also happen in other areas. And there's even a likelihood that it can happen in Florida very soon. There is right now Democrat Josh Well, which we're seeing a special election that's going to happen this week. There's a lot of anxiety right now in the GOP there is a lot right now. There is a congressional seat. Democrat Josh Well is massively outraising Republican Randy Fine. Now, this is a special election. Now, the reason why this is a big deal is because you know who had that seat? Mike Waltz. Yes, the Mike Waltz we just talked about. Mike Waltz was in that congressional seat. And now Mike Waltz might potentially, who knows, might lose their job. So it wasn't even worth them leaving a congressional seat to take on this national security role that they might even lose. But now that seat that was previously occupied by Michael Waltz could be lost, right? Because now it's an open special election, which means that now they got to fill the seat. People thought Randy Fine, Republican, might get it because Waltz left to become the national security advisor. But this Democrat named Josh Well might flip that seat. Now, Trump won that district by 30 points in 2024. The race has become competitive because apparently Josh Well is massively out fundraising and outraising this guy, Randy Fine. They're confident that that's going to be a victory, but now everybody is shook because of all these flip-flops and these changes. And so now it's gotten to a point where they don't even want to risk it with Elise Stefanik, because if Elise Stefanik leaves, that can make that district seat open. And the reason why everybody is worried about this is because let's keep it all the way 100. Trump's massive policies over the past 2 months have been very, very unpopular. And that is causing a lot of problems. That it is very unpopular right now. A lot of these policies that's impacting veterans, all these policies that's impacting public education, all this shit that's happening right now, nobody is seem like they're feeling it. Nobody, whether you're Republican or Democrat, Americans are like, this is not what, a lot of Republicans are losing their jobs. Supporters, supporters that work in these federal jobs, lose their jobs. They're not happy. Their families are not happy. This is trickling down a way that Trump has not considered. And so all these individuals like, yeah, go after the liberals. We don't want to be the sacrificial lamb. Everybody is being sacrificed by all these policies by Trump. Everybody is. These town halls have been shit shows. It's not looking good. Okay. This razor thin margin, let me tell you what I think. I have some interesting theories about here. I think that this is happening because the GOP recognized that candidates are struggling. The fact that they're pulling back appointments and nominations for people right now, that they're trying to keep the House intact, is because we all know what's going to fucking happen November 2026. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. The Republicans are going to lose the House. That's going to happen. And then to be clear, that traditionally when one party wins so many houses, so many parts of government in this way, whoever gets the presidency, sometimes it's a backlash, and if it's a thin margin like this, they'll lose. The Republicans are going to lose the House on November 2026. Okay, I'm willing to bet on that for sure. I'm willing to guarantee they're losing the House. Now, the Senate they might be able to keep because they do have a strong lead in the Senate. But they're going to lose the House. And if they lose the House, that's going to make everything else harder for them to get anything done. Trump right now is trying to push as much shit as he can these next 2 years, as much as he can, because he knows that this little power run he got right now is going to be inevitable. And even with the razor thin majority in the House, Republicans may not even be as loyal at a certain point. They may not even be able to afford to be loyal to him, given that they might fear they might lose their seat. So his whole reign, this whole thought of a mandate that they've been saying, that Trump has a mandate, right now, that anything that Trump says, he's going to get because of all this power, that's fading. There's no Trump mandate. Trump is not even being able to hold seats in areas and districts where his districts was winning by large numbers. If you all been paying attention to these special elections across the country, there's been many flips as fast as less than 3 months. Trump's been in office for less than 3 months, and his mandate is not strong. And the crazy part is Mike Johnson, who's the speaker, right, of the House, the Republican speaker of the House, has even said that he's told Trump, with the shit, low key, he's like, with the shit you're trying to do, you're going to piss some people off, and you need to cut back on taking all these House members out. You're not going to be able to keep because every time what Trump has been doing, he's been plucking House members and putting them in these roles. But see, this is what Elise Stefanik gets, because let me tell you some tea about her. She was a moderate, okay? She was a moderate when she won her seat, okay? She was a moderate Republican. She was, she had a social liberal energy, but she had a fiscal conservative vibe. But she basically, she pandered. She was a sellout. She shucked and jived for Trump and MAGA to try to get in with the bad boys. So she sold her soul for Trump, and now Trump then played in her face. How embarrassing. Like, you did all that shucking and jiving and played in all that meganess, and at the end of the day, you're a woman, okay, because you played the hand of a sexist, misogynistic party, and guess what you did? You played with the clown came cap the back. So you thought you was going to ease your way up into Nikki Haley's old seat. You thought that you was playing the game. You threw shade. You did all the things to get Trump reelected, and guess what? Now Trump is making your ass stay back where you started at the damn Congress House. How you like them goddamn apples? She did all that work, and now she will never get to see the UN ambassadorship. Congratulations, you played yourself. And a bunch of these Republican people are going to play themselves as the time goes on. But I remain very optimistic. I know that there's some radical changes happening in the world, these policies left and right, but y'all pay attention. Pay attention. This doom scrolling shit is a wrap. Cut it the fuck out. Don't come to me talking about, I'm worried. Spare me your white tears. And I'm going to start telling some of my people that. Spare me your white tears. Spare me your white tears. Spare me your white tears. I just got to say that. Spare me your white tears. Because this shit is for the birds. This shit is for the birds. And at this point, you being white and being worrisome, I don't care. I don't care. Don't come talking to me about Trump and how you worry about Trump. I'm not that friend. I'm not that person. Don't do it. I'm not the one. If you want to go somewhere and be miserable about it, be miserable. I don't got time to be miserable. I got time to get even. I got time to be strategic. I got time to move accordingly. Okay? We can sit up and cry about how immigration is fucking up this country, or we can inform our people about how they can do what they can do to stay safe and remain smart. I'm all about solutions when it comes to this shit. I don't have time to do it. Do it with a therapist, do it with a shrink, do it with your pillow, do it with your cat, do it with your spouse. I just think I just as a black queer person, when I see cishet folks, when I see white people coming to me telling me about how bad Trump is, I don't know what you want from me. Do you want an approval? Do you want to feel like you're in solid? I don't give a fuck. Like, do something. Do something. Especially the ones who got resources, money, connections, access to power, proximity to connected people. Do something. But just venting about how bad Trump is, I don't care. I don't care. Trump been bad, whatever. I don't care. I fucking don't care. I'm not interested in venting about racist people unless the story ends with you popping them, firing them, getting them canceled, or doing something. If the story does not end with some type of consequence, just telling me about your racist family members, just telling me about the racism you saw, does not do anything for a black person. It's actually, if anything, more triggering and infuriating. Don't fucking care. Did you pop off? Did you curse them out? Did you stop talking to them? Did you get them fired? Did you pull a Karen on them? Like, what did you do? How does this story end, white person? Or did you just want to tell a black person, like, you can relate to them? Yeah, there's reasons why black people can't pop off at white people in the same way that white people can. Because we could get shot. Because there is other things that can happen to us that will not happen to you. You just don't do it because of anxiety. We don't do it because we're scared to lose our lives. And the gag is there are more black folks that I know, including myself, that will have the courage to step up to racism in ways that white people dare not to, and will put it and risk it all. And we don't ever walk around here telling everybody all our battle stories. So we're in a different era where it's the put up a show up era. It's the show and tell era. It's the put it on the flow era. If you're not doing nothing with these issues, venting and belaboring about it to your black friends, to black people, to everybody, it just ain't it. I'm not going to tell you, even as somebody who supports women, like as a feminist, I will never tell to women any stories about bad men I know in the world without telling you how I check them, stop talking to them, don't fuck with them, don't recommend them. I just had a conversation this weekend with one of my homegirls, and she was asking me about a guy that she thought was problematic. And I told her, I said, yeah, this man is a piece of shit. He's blah, 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 blah. This person tried to get on an organization I was a part of. I let my people know that this man is a problem. He didn't get that nomination. He didn't blah, 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 blah. But I'm going to tell you the ways that I am proactively shutting that shit down, how I'm confronting these people, how I'm doing whatever. The story's got to end with consequences to me. If you just tell me, oh, some of the mainline women I know are racist and this and all the blah, 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 blah. I'm like, what do you do? What do you do? What did you do? How did you confront that? How did you address that? You just, you told them they were wrong? Okay, cool. Well, okay. Like, I just think that if we think racism to be a serious issue, if we really think that sexism and real stuff is real issues, then there needs to be consequences. There needs to be resolutions. And if you're not in the space to do that work or do that, then just don't say anything at all and let the people that do the work do the work. But it's just we just got to get past this. This is the same shit we did in 2017, y'all. Not me. But there's the same shit that white people did in 2017. And that's how Trump got elected. Because you know why he got reelected is because you all sat back, saw these things happen, told people about it, and thought that simply saying you don't agree with it was enough. No, that's not enough. Wearing a t-shirt is not enough. See, that's what I call passive progress. And passive progress ain't real progress, okay? So my passive progress is that you live in a town, in a neighborhood where there are white supremacists and racists. So you can be passive aggressive in policy and progress. What's passive about that is I'm going to wear a t-shirt that says Black Lives Matter. And I'm going to have a sign on my door that say Black Lives Matter in my predominantly white neighborhood that's racist. That's called passive aggressive progress. It's passive aggressive allyship. It's which is the reverse of passive aggressiveness, but it's the way that people do it, right? So, okay, you're in a women's group where a lot of the women in your social circle are racist. So you wear rainbow shirts to piss them off and wear black pride shirts and black power shirts to piss them off. That's passive aggressive. That doesn't fucking matter. The racist is going to be annoyed emotionally, but they're going to still be a fucking racist, right? That's passive. I'm going to symbolically address this issue. You're not addressing anything, right? I know that there's some people at my church that are very homophobic. And so I go to church and I wear a rainbow bracelet just to piss them off. Ooh, they're pissed off. But guess what? They're going to still even amplify their hatred towards queer people. And you know what they might do? Actually double down their policies. What are you fucking doing to stop them? What are you doing to actually shut them out? What are you doing to let them know you're not down with the get down? Are you going to tell that church, I'm not giving y'all no more offerings because y'all got bigots here. I'm not going here anymore. And I'm going to tell people to stop supporting your fucking church because your church got bigots. You know what that does? That forces the church to say, you know what? This church is, they might change their mind on having certain people be in leadership. Or you're in this yoga group and you noticing these women are racist, and you know what you say? Listen, the way that you're talking about black people, this is not a safe space for me. I can't be a part of this group. And you know what? I don't think it's a good place for other people that are like-minded to go here. I don't support this. Speak the fuck up. Don't disappear. Don't ghost. Use your mouth and speak out and call it out. Make people sit in discomfort and make change happen. See, that's the problem. Y'all didn't do that. And you know what they did? The people that did do that, they called that shit council culture. And then people like you got afraid of those euphemisms and said, I don't want to counsel anybody. You used the rhetoric that they created and you didn't embrace it. And so now you're in these little small towns and these people are more emboldened and now you feel outnumbered and now you're scared to go anywhere because now the bigots then showed their faces again. But guess what? You already knew they were a bigot. You already knew they were voting for Trump. You already knew who they were. You're just mad that now they're more out with it now because getting Trump reelected allowed them to come back out with it. They were quiet a little bit when Biden was in, but they still were those problems. But you thought you could tolerate them. See, that's the problem. Y'all tolerating shit that's intolerable. Full circle. I done already clocked it. So I don't want to hear it. If you're white, just don't come to me telling me about racism. If you're straight, don't come over here telling me about homophobia unless you're not fucking with these people. I just don't know why we're acting surprised in 2025. Don't tell me anything about it. Just don't. Just tell me solutions. Just tell me if the story better have a happy ending. It cannot be a Greek tragedy like Othello. Okay? Literally. I need an ending where it ends in consequences. Or just, you know what? Maybe they don't gotta tell me the story. Just fucking do the work. How about that? Either way. Both options are permissible. So moving on. Tim Walz. Oh my goodness, bless his heart. There's been a lot of talk about how Tim Walz has been making the media rounds lately, talking about how he felt like he was underutilized, how, the campaign could have been different if different things would have happened. Everybody now is playing the coulda, woulda, shoulda, how they all want to take their take on how the election could have been different. Honestly, I will say, to cut to the chase, I don't think anything could have changed the outcome of this election. I really think that this country has not done enough homework. White people didn't do enough work on themselves, and that it was almost inevitable that Trump was going to win. I don't think that there was anything that Kamala Harris could have done differently that could have changed this election. I think that the problem is that the Democratic Party, if we could have changed things, we should have been more proactive in creating a succession plan for Biden shortly after he got elected the first term. Things could have probably changed then. But at a certain point, I want to say the final 2 years, when we look at what was going on, I think that it was almost, in retrospect, inevitable. Trump was always going to win because the Democratic Party did not really have a strong consideration on how to maintain power after Biden. Because the moment that Biden decided to stay in the race, that was already the doom. Biden was too unpopular. The recession, the economics of it all was just too daunting. And I think that at the end of the day, there was nothing that could have changed the outcome in retrospect. I mean, when I look at those numbers, I feel like the numbers basically say Kamala never had a chance, baby. The fact that every single swing state went red, that meant that Kamala didn't have a chance. And the truth of the matter is, that's not Kamala's fault. That's this country's fault. It's not Kamala's fault. I think Kamala there's some things that was wrong with Kamala's campaign, but I don't think whether Kamala did it right or wrong or in between, I don't think there's anything Kamala could have did to actually win that seat. The racism in America was too strong. The country really thought that they could be able to find a way to tame Trump. They really thought that Trump would come in. I think there's a lot of dumb white people, because I'm going to keep it 100, that thought that Trump was going to be humbled, that the lawsuits, the cases, everything that happened was going to humble him to make him make better decisions if he got the White House again. Trump never said he was going to do any of that. And Trump said what he said and stuck to what he was going to do. So the fact that people just did not respect that decision, the respect that he was who he said he was, and kept on trying to create these imaginary hypotheticals for him, is their foolishness. And now we all have to pay the price. So yeah, Tim Walz talking, when he talking, baby, you're trying to give main character energy when we all know that you was really just a guy from a small little town, a little old state. I mean, great to be a governor, but you was never ready for the national spotlight. And truth of the matter is that vice presidents really can't sway. If Josh Shapiro was the VP pick, Kamala still wasn't going to win. And that's why Josh Shapiro honestly wasn't even sweating it. I do believe to a certain extent, Josh was okay with not being the VP pick at a certain point. I think he realized, I'm not going to fight it. I'm not going to change it. And quite frankly, there was this push for him, but I think low key in retrospect, I think there was a part of him who truly didn't want it exactly either. I think if Kamala Harris, the former VP, would have really wanted him, I think he would have took it. But I also think that because there was also questions about his leadership and the way that got nasty, I think that he was okay with not getting it because he wasn't trying to lose anyway. So I think there's a lot of, like, in retrospect, I think there's a lot of things now that we see the numbers, now that we see how people are coming out the shadows, talking about this and a third, come on. It's just real. It's just real. So, yeah. Put that in perspective. But now there's conversations about who will be the next presidential pick. Like, who do we have as a Democratic presidential pick? Who's in the bracket? You know what? They've been talking about AOC, Bernie Sanders, propping up AOC, this, that, and third. It's too fucking early. Can we focus on the task at hand? Can we keep a republic by the time we have 2028? I just think that's what annoys me about political commentary lately, is that everybody is acting like shit. I mean, I'm confused. Which one is it? Is the country on fire, or is democracy under attack, or is everything a mess that's fine and we can still hope for a 2028 election? I can't even think about 2028 because I'm too busy trying to figure out, are y'all going to really secure the House in 2026, Democrats? Can y'all focus on the task at hand? I'm not mad at them floating ideas and looking at people, but what I don't like is the fact that there's just too much hyper-national focus on certain people. Maybe the person might emerge at the last minute. Maybe we won't know who that leader is until the final year. There's so many scandals, there's so many indictments, there's so much shit happening right now that every time you think you got a person that could potentially be, they're not. Gavin Newsom, I thought had a strong chance. But all this shit Gavin Newsom doing on this goddamn podcast, I don't see it for him. I don't like him anymore. I'm over it, right? So anybody can show their ass between now and then. Who knows what AOC might do next year or in the next couple of months? Who knows what the next presidential hopeful might do? I don't know. Who knows? Josh Shapiro might be in some scandal. I don't know. Anything can happen with any of these people. So because we're in this very fraught time politically, we don't know yet. And so to sit up here and waste precious resources and time trying to entertain possible hopefuls, I just think that's just not the way to do this. So you're not going to hear me, to be honest. I will not start entertaining any conversation about presidential hopefuls until the end of the midterms. I think let's see how the midterms play out. After the midterms, I'll talk about it. I'll start entertaining that. But right now, I'm not trying to have this who you think might run for president in 2028. Because y'all did that shit, and look how that played out. So let's not. I won't have any conversations on this podcast with that shit. I won't. I know Trump over here talking about a possible third term, child. Which is hilarious. But there is possible ways, right? Like if VP Vance chooses to take the seat and then flip it, and give it to Trump, he could do that legally. Kristen Welker had an interview with Trump where he talked about that with her and entertained the thought with me and Meet the Press. I mean, honestly, I don't personally see it. In other news that's taking place out here, Elon Musk is planning to his sold X, formerly Twitter, as you all know, for $33 billion. This is an all-stock deal with his AI startup XAI, which is basically artificial intelligence, startup thing he's doing. He is selling it to them to run, and also I think it's interesting that he's trying to take himself away from running, Twitter, which I'm still trying to figure out if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, anything that Elon Musk do, you got to keep an eye on it. You got to, know necessarily if it's true or not, or if there's a potential conflict of interest with that deal because it's his startup. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. And so, I don't know. We'll see. There's a lot of protests happening with Tesla. His companies are taking a hit, and that's some of the issues that people are saying. So some people have even called out the fact that, Tesla has some hypocrisy issues, that there are some Democrats that are continuing to invest in his company, even though they're publicly been criticizing him as the owner. And there's a lot of Tesla cars that's been keyed. There is a lot of major developments happening. There is a website that is arguably being said to dox certain folks. It's some interesting conversations being had about his brand and his stuff. Now, for many folks, I don't own a Tesla. I don't support the car. It's interesting because a lot of Uber ride shares have it. And so that's, its own issue. But there's been a lot of issues. Like there's been a firebomb situation in, Vegas, that came about. But there are some Democrats, I'm going to name them for you. Josh Gottenheimer, who's a Democrat in New Jersey. Vicente Gonzalez in Texas. Gio Cisneros in California. Ro Kanhana in California. They've all purchased Tesla shares since Donald Trump's inauguration. And I'm like, you're buying that kind of stock? But then let's talk about the Democrats who continues to be still invested in Tesla. Congressperson Pat Ryan in New York, who's a Democrat. Jared Moskowitz in Florida. Adam Smith in Washington. Dwight Evans, our Pennsylvania Congressman Dwight Evans, continues to remain invested in Tesla stock. So what y'all doing, Democrats? Y'all got y'all stock invested with Musk and Elon. Y'all keeping this man rich. That's some hypocrisy right there. See, we gonna call it out, honestly speaking. That's what we do on this podcast. So for those who know Congressman Dwight Evans, maybe he don't remember. Maybe he'd be a little forgetful. You might want to call him and say, bro, why are you investing in Tesla stock? Why have you sold your stock yet? Why are you keeping this man rich? But you're over here talking about, taking folks out, taking Republican power out. Why isn't y'all invested in any of Elon Musk's stock when that's all I'm saying. Stay woke. Stay woke. Because these are the same Democrats talking shit. I got a little notepad. And when I see some of these elected officials say, well, it's great that you mentioned that, but why are you still investing your stock in Trump appointee businesses? I get that there's some companies that I know it's a little bit more complicated. But why do you have stock in that? Why? Same with Amazon. I want to know if people got their stock invested. Now, that might be a hard pill for some people to swallow. But see, this is what I be talking about with this capitalism. Why are Democrat elected officials invested in Tesla right now? Stay woke. So, moving along to local. Well, yeah, we're going to do local because I'm going to put that in my media section. So, local politics. Commerce Director Alba Martinez, who made history as one of the highest ranking Latino members in the Latinas in the city. Also LGBTQ representation. She's a lesbian. She's Latina. And she was a big, respected leader within Philadelphia politics and also in the park administration. Well, she's resigning from the park administration because she's about to produce a musical about Philly's Latino communities. Interesting, right? That's so... it would have been a conflict of interest if she tried to do that while working in administration. But, can you imagine, that's your, she was the first Latina to hold office as the commerce director. Pretty big deal. But she is going to produce a musical that is a part of her long-running La Guagua 47 project, which is highlighting a vibrance, the project highlighting vibrance of Philadelphia's Latino community. She's been doing this work for a while, and she's really big about it. And La Guagua 47 shows how SEPTA's 47 bus connects Latino communities throughout the city. So this is a part of the work that she's been doing for a long time, and she cares about it. And it connects with the mural arts, and she did a short film. And she's a songwriter and producer, and she's out in the arts. And so this is something she wants to continue to do. So she's leaving her post to pursue the arts. Hey, I ain't mad at it. Why not? But the other big thing that I wanted to talk about is, and this is a really big deal. So the Working Families Party, which is currently under the leadership politically in city council by council members at large, minority leader Kendra Brooks, and her minority whip, Nicholas O'Rourke. They are proposing in this budget the People's Tax Plan, which I'm excited to see. This budget has been a little dry and boring in the conversation in the press. It's just not snapping and hitting the way people thought it was going to hit. But now they're proposing their own tax plan within the budget. They're addressing some issues they have with the park administration's current proposals, and they are looking for some amendments and some changes. I wonder if there's going to be some bipartisan support, not within Republicans and Democrats, but Democrats and Working Families Party around this. Now, here's some of the highlights of the People's Tax Plan, which I do find interesting, I will say. They plan to increase wage tax refunds for low-income Philadelphians. Not bad. Doubling the size of a tax break that helps small businesses. And that's if they can get the support, because there is some concerns about what they're doing with that portion, but they want to see if the state, if there's some legal oversight with it, if there is some, because I know there's a uniformity clause within the state, within the Commonwealth, within the Passage of Harrisburg with city governance. But they said, they'll look into, they would love to see this happen if they're able to, if they get a legal challenge. So they're planning to double the size of the tax bracket to help small businesses, and they do plan to defend it from a legal challenge that the park administration might get if they believe that the city cannot win this. So they're hoping that they can be able to fix that, adjust that, because I know a lot of business, financial tax blocks have argued about it, but they're willing to stand 10 toes down on it if there's a legal challenge on it. But it's worth exploring, right? Also, they want to incorporate a new 0.4% tax on stocks and bonds held by city residents. In other words, this is a wealth tax, okay? A 0.4% tax on stocks and bonds held by city residents. This is a wealth tax. I love this idea. I love the wealth tax thing. I think the wealth tax thing is genius. I don't give a fuck if you're rich. Pay something, okay? It's only 0.4%. So it's less than 0.5% in tax. But if there was such a wealth tax, y'all, in this city on stocks and bonds from city residents, do you know how much money the city would have in added revenue that can go to public services like public education and other things? I just love that idea. So we'll see what the park administration do. But I gotta say that the progressives in Philadelphia electoral politics, because let me be very clear, the progressives that are just out here in Philadelphia, they are annoying as fuck at times. But I will say that these elected progressives, okay, Kendra and Nick, I think that what I like about them is they're trying to propose solutions. They may not get everything they want, but there are some interesting things they bring to the table that these Democrats in city council are too cowardly to address. Now, Gautier does her thing, Rue does her thing too. But a lot of them Democrats, they won't even touch these type of things because they're too scared to buck at the mayor because it's a part of their party. But you know what? Working Families Party are doing some of that important work to really steer the city forward. So I'm interested to see where that goes. Now, in national media drama, a couple of you all who are avid listeners have been asking me about what's been going on with some NABJ scandal, not really NABJ related, but kind of, sort of, involving acclaimed journalist Wesley Laurie. Now, you've probably remember hearing that name, Wesley Laurie, on this podcast over the years. Wesley Laurie is a 2-time Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist. Many people see him as a leading national reporter on issues of race and social justice. He was formerly at the Washington Post. He's worked at the American University. He did some work at CBS News, but he's been around. He's 35 years old. A lot of people are shocked that he looks older, much older, even though me and him are around the same age, but he looks older than 35, but no shade, no tea. There's a lot of things that's been said. And he's been in the news a lot lately. He left American University. He had a very big investigative workshop at American University position. But he left, and it was kind of abrupt, and people did not know where did that come from. Well, he resigned after allegations that he made inappropriate sexual comments in meetings with students and unwanted sexual advances towards journalists. That is what is being said, that there were Title IX complaints before he left American University. He's actually not 35. He's 34. There were some people that say he's 35. He's 34 years old. So we're close to the same age. He hasn't denied incidents, but he has definitely been critical about some of the framing of his behavior, the situations at hand, right? What's interesting is that this year he was initially supposed to be a convention chair for the NABJ convention, which is going to be in Cleveland, Ohio this year. And, Ohio is one of the places that he's resided. He's from Ohio. He went to the Ohio State University, but he was a convention chair for them, and he's resigned from that position given the recent controversy. Where do I begin? Well, look, I'm not going to kick a dead horse. I'll start there to a certain extent. I mean, it's an unfortunate situation for those involved. Um, what I will say, and I'm going to speak in general, but I will just say from my encounters with a lot of these national journalists and folks that you all be telling me, oh, you should collaborate with this person and you should be cool. Do you know this person? My grandma used to always say to me when I was younger that if there was a reason why a person or entity that you thought should be in work with you or in collaboration with you or in relationship with you in some way, and it just never seems to happen, it is for good reason. And there's times in my career where I've wanted to build professional relationships, mentorship, connections with certain folks that I felt like was in my field. And I was like, yo, we should be stronger together. We should all build. We should collaborate. We should grow. There's opportunities to do this work. And you're always, in some cases, those partnerships work, right? And you find people, you find tribe, and it just hits. It just hits, right? And I've had people like that in my career where, collaborations will happen. But then you will have situations where, for whatever reasons, there's a distance and you just don't really know why. Because you're like, well, I never did anything to that person or whatever. Why they don't want to be around? And you sometimes will internalize that or think it's something with you or whatever the case is sometimes. And then you'll find out, there's other reasons. And I've experienced, and I'm not talking specifically about Wesley, right? But I've had experiences where there's been men in this industry, black men, because white journalists, they just weird with me, they just are. A lot of them are, let's just keep it 100, jealousy, racism, all that shit. But there's other like queer journalists, the black journalists in the industry that I meet, and I've met them, and I'll be thinking to myself, wow, I would love to work with them, collaborate with them, do some things. And there will always be this weird distance. And I always tell myself, well, why, right? What is it me? Is it they don't like me or whatever? And sometimes it don't feel like there's some beef, but sometimes people just be doing things in a way that they know how you do and how you live, that they know that it won't be tolerated over here. And so in some sense, I feel like a lot of straight male journalists that I've encountered, I'm going to keep it 100. A lot of cishet male journalists, young journalists in this industry, y'all, they dogs. They're dogs. They're dogs. I'm just gonna keep 100. They're dogs. They got power. They got influence. They cocky, and they, look, they're great journalists as a profession, right? But in their personal worlds, in their professional spaces outside of the actual work they produce, they be out here fucking everybody in their newsrooms. They be out here sleeping around the industry. They be cheating on people. They be lying, and they be doing all kind of fucked up shit. They're horrible people. Like, they're bad people in real life. And you're just like, I have found, I'm not talking about Wesley specifically, but I'm just putting it out there. I have been in a situation where people that I've looked up to in the industry and I wanted to seek them as a mentor or something, I realized, oh wow, this person is it's not that people are supposed to be perfect and gods, because I don't live in that celebrity world either. Let me be very clear about that. But I'm talking about bad as in inappropriate, like not bad as in, okay, some people like to drink, some people like to party, okay, some people, are sometimes politically incorrect. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about folks that be out here doing some very bad shit, like really bad shit, like being a creep, like being a sexual harasser in your job, like retaliating against women who don't take your sexual advances, like blackballing people who are gay, like, lying on people, like stealing from folks, scamming people, like taking advantage of innocent people, like bad people. Like, these are bad guys, right? I'm not talking about imperfect people. I'm talking about bad guys, right? And so I've recognized in this industry that I try as much as I can to walk the talk. Like, who I am in my work and how I do my work, I hold on to as much as possible those ideals and principles in the way that I live. There's a lot of people who don't do that in this industry, in a lot of industries. You can relate to this whether or not you're a journalist or whatever, right? And so it can be a little disappointing to find out that some people that you might look at as a hero in one aspect might be a jerk in another, like a Bill Cosby or something like that, right? And so what I've realized in this industry is that it's not that there are some people that do some things that are bad guys. And I've been spared from knowing a lot about those people because they just know not to do their dirt around me because they're either scared I'm going to call them out. They're scared that they're going to get exposed. And so in some cases, because you might be a person that people know is not without the bullshit, they don't do all those things in front of you. And so it's been interesting that in my professional career, I've locally and nationally, I've had situations where people tell me, oh, this person, X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, for whatever reason, this person just don't bang with me because they know I'm not with the shits. Like, why I wasn't invited to that party? Oh, because you at that party doing coke and some other things, and that's not what I get into. So you might be at the party and you got friends that do crazy drugs. Y'all do that kind of shit. Y'all are doing drugs. Y'all might be in situations where y'all out here drinking and getting high and getting people high and fucking people out their consent, right? That may be what you do, but Mr. Owens is a married man. Mr. Owens don't be out here cheating. You can't bring him to those parties because he's not mixy like that. So it's like I've almost been protected. My reputation in many ways have guided me and protected me from a lot of bullshit from certain folks that I might admire from afar. And I think about certain actors. Like there's a reason why you don't hear Denzel's name. Like Denzel is a major Hollywood actor, right? But over the years, you never hear about Denzel being caught up in any parties, any drama, any weird rooms or anything like that. Because Denzel, people just know. And these are people that respect Denzel. But they like low-key are like, some of them are like, you know what? Denzel is such a admirable person. I don't want to see Denzel. I don't want Denzel to see me coked up and drunk. I don't want to see Denzel see me be a womanizer. But there's other people that they are like that around because they know that those people see them a certain type of way. And so I do believe that there is a universe where that happens in various industries. And I think there are people respectfully that know that I'm really about that life. And so they don't bring me into those type of circles and stuff when they're like that. There's a lot of people that's like, oh, why can't I come to the party? Why I didn't get invited to this? And I realized, because y'all be doing some shit you ain't supposed to be doing up in there. And I'm not that girl. So they don't really want me to be in there because I'm not beat for that. And so in certain settings, because I'm trying not to name names and do all that. But when I was in those NABJ circles and in those elite journalism circles, yeah, I was one of the A-listers in those spaces in certain regards. But when it came to the private parties, when it came to some of those other spaces, they never put me in there. And I used to always feel a sense of rejection. I used to feel like, damn, I guess they don't, whatever. But as time has passed and some of these people have gotten exposed to shit, I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense. They didn't want me in there because they knew I was going to tell them, get up off the floor. No pun intended. I'll be like, hey, why are you doing that? Don't do that. Don't do that. Because they don't want that. I would have been considered the killjoy, the no fun guy, because I didn't want people out here doing really fucked up shit to people. So, yeah, I'll leave it at that. I will let y'all pick up what I'm putting down. But I will just say that rejection is protection. That sometimes y'all want to force things that are not meant to be. And I've just learned so much in the past 2 years that the career path that I'm on, the journey that I'm on, the way that I've achieved my accomplishments, I never had to play the whole position. I never had to fuck to get a position. I never had to be the strippers. I never had to do the things to get the things I deserve. Has it taken me a little longer? You know what? I used to say that, but honestly, I feel like it's right on time. I feel like where I'm at emotionally and professionally, my maturity level, I'm in a place to receive the things that I deserve at the right time. Sometimes people want you to get things sooner than you should, but you may not be in the space to receive it and do what needs to be done with it. I truly believe that. In 2016, I ran on the board of PABJ, the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists. I lost by 2 votes. I always remember that because what that 2-vote loss meant is that I should do it again, but now is not the time. And sometimes in life, people want to chase certain things, but you may not be fully ready for it. And rather than fight the odds or fight the issues, it's not a no, it's a no now, but it may not be a no forever. And so I've just learned through time to not question the process of things in the universe is out of my control. Sometimes I look at a thing and say, you know what? It was nothing I could have done to change this outcome. There's a reason why I need to learn from it, and I'm just gonna move forward. And then sometimes in life, things will come back to you, and you will go, okay, that's why. But don't harp on it. Don't internalize it. Grow from it and learn from it and apply it and see what was meant to be learned. But take it, because I think what happens is when people force something or beg for something in a situation that's not feeding it to them, what then happens is that you get those things, and because you get those things that way, you become indebted to those who give it to you that way. And then it becomes the experience that you thought you wanted, but it's not, because all these other politics come into play. Think about it. Something told me to say that. Somebody listening to this episode right now needs to hear that. This episode be long, but it be useful. But I feel like somebody needs to hear that. Because sometimes we will compromise, we will do these things, and sometimes that's just not it. And you gotta read the situation better. And so I've just learned over the years to just not question why certain things don't be the way they are, why certain relationships, partnerships, collaborations, connections don't happen, because there's always something that's going to tell you something was there. I am so grateful for the friends I already have. I'm so grateful for the networks I already have. I'm so grateful for the places and spaces that pay me and nurture me. I'm good. I'm really good. I'm great. And if there's new opportunities that come, great. But I'm not sitting up begging or asking to be in other places and spaces that don't want me or don't seem to be interested. If people don't know who I am, then let's make an introduction. But let me just be clear that when people got my number, got my email address, see me in certain spaces and continue to do what they do the way they do it, that's a choice. And it's for a reason. And maybe you'll know the reason, or maybe you'll find out. But I say that all to say, all I got to say is, well, one last little tidbit. 2 years ago, when I dealt with my shit with NEBJ, 2 years ago, when I got banned for 5 years for whistleblowing, there were people who text me, wanted to know the tea. Text me, wanted to know what was going on. And then when everything went down the way it did, certain people stayed silent, moved on, benefited off of my absence in certain organizations to build themselves up, did no checkups, no follow-ups, did nothing. They're entitled to do what they do, and I'm entitled to do what I do. Be best. Thoughts and prayers. Sorrows. Hopefully you learned a lesson from this. Just talking in general. Bless they heart. Bless they heart. Now, moving along. White House press correspondence is in shambles. The AP, the Associated Press, claims they're in dead water now. Ever since Trump has kind of barred them from White House press conferences, apparently many people affiliated with the Associated Press has not had major leads, exclusives, or anything collected to the White House and the Trump administration. This is because of the fact that they refused to say Gulf of America. Instead, they say Gulf of Mexico, which is accurate, but they refuse to acknowledge the Gulf of America. So because they have not conceded to Trump in this way, they have been basically ramshacked out of a lot of excess. Now, this is wild because Associated Press, the AP, is considered one of the forthright media news wiring companies and groups. And as a result of them not having this access to the White House in the ways that they used to, this has made their whole entire operation kind of be in shambles. And also, the White House Press Correspondents Association is also struggling right now. There's a lot of drama happening. Because of the fact that the White House is literally choosing who goes into the certain press corps. They're cherry picking who gets to come into the White House, who cannot come now to interview the president and White House officials. They've also launched this new thing called Podcasters Row, where they have taken shots at CNN and basically have in mainstream legacy media, basically saying that the podcasts are talking to everyday people in ways that can get the president's message out. But mind you, they've only been recruiting far right conservative podcasts to be a part of that row to get access. They're not letting, regular or liberal or different mixed media podcasters get access and space to that podcast as well. In other words, Ernestly Speaking is not over at Podcast as well. But to be clear, they're cherry picking. They're dictating how they want to control the message in the media flow. And as a result, certain pressure has now even led to them, the White House Press Correspondents Association, their White House Correspondents' Dinner that they always do, this year will not have a comedian. So Amber Ruffin, who has been a part of The Daily Show, who's been a famous comedian, who's done some great work, and very smart and very political, she's not being allowed to even be the host. She was offered the invitation to be the host of this upcoming Correspondents' Dinner, which is a big deal to have a Black woman comedian, lead this historic dinner. That's not happening now because of the fact that the White House press correspondents, they're like letting her go because of some joke that she made about MAGA or something like that. And now they're retaliating. This is a backlash. They knew who she was. They knew her politics. And now she's being penalized. And I think the White House press correspondents is playing politics because maybe this is their way they can leverage the relationship with the White House to have some change. But now they're hurting their own to try to leverage power. So it's really fucked up what's happened to her. But stay tuned on that. This week's Ask Ernest, a lot of you all wanted to, was really touched by the Facebook post I made earlier this week. Talking about loving people from a distance and the process of moving on and what does that look like. And it's self-reflection self-empowerment, self-reflection, while I was in Cleveland, while I was in Cleveland, I had a conversation with my mentor about navigating self-evolution in public. Fun fact, I left this out earlier, but when I went to Cleveland, and I guess this is connected, just kind of like a random thing, but I just thought it'd be interesting to bring this up. But while I was in Cleveland, in my hotel, I bumped into, even though we did not speak to each other, but we saw each other, but we not talking to each other. But D-Ray McKesson, yes, Blue Vest, the one that I did that big New York magazine story about, right? D-Ray McKesson was in the same hotel I was at in Cleveland. I don't know why he was there, but it was just really interesting. Like, let me tell you, we bumped into each other the first time I was in the lobby. He didn't see me. Well, he saw me. We didn't talk to each other, agree each other, acknowledge each other, or anything like that. I think he's still butthurt about that article because it was one that led to his public notoriety, his downfall. I wouldn't say his total downfall, but it was the piece pretty much led to a lot of people questioning his motives and who he was and all that. I mean, he was always in controversy, but that piece was the one that just revealed the issues at Campaign Zero and it is a story that continues to carry legs long after in more ways than one. But the next time I saw him I was inside the hotel lobby dinner, the restaurant that they had at the hotel, and I was eating, and he walked by, he sees me, and he was meeting someone at the bar, and he had a hoodie on the entire time. I was like, dude, ain't nobody trying to take no pictures of you. Nobody's checking for you. If you want to have a hoodie on and hide yourself like you're some celebrity, like nobody in the room recognized him anyway. I only did because of the fact that, one, I was Black, two, I covered him, but he's just so pretentious, but just random. So I was talking to my mentor while I was in the hotel on the phone about navigating self-evolution in public, because a lot of times what I've noticed is that I've been in the public spotlight for over 10 years. There's been, articles written about me for forever. There's been, just lots of attention, blogs and social media and things. And I feel like as a person, I've evolved, but I've noticed that certain relationships I've had with people, not just necessarily in my personal life, but just in professional spaces, that folks just, there's this social, cognizance. And, there's a cognitive dissonance that people have when it comes to recognizing growth and evolution in people. And so what I wrote on my Facebook and how I describe this is that in many ways, when people know you for a long time, they'll hold on to an image of who you were when you're either very young, powerless, codependent, immature, or a variation of stagnant, right? And this goes to people that know you, because like it's funny because like people who just recently got to meet me or introduced themselves to me in the past recent years, who I am at this point where I've grown to, I'm pretty much who I am, right? This is me, and so there's not too much there, but it is interesting navigating relationships that I've had through college, through college and adulthood, post high school, all of that. That it's been interesting to see. Even people who've known me, even when I started my career, at Metro and back then all the way till now. And even, let's say even 8 years ago, whatever. But there's been that way, right? And so in some cases, what I've come to realize and think about is that people remembering me in this way levels their imaginary playing field, right? It keeps them relevant. It makes them remain what they believe an asset in your life. And so when people continue to hold on to that older image of you, part of that it says less about who you are, but more about where they are at, right? That in their mind, they want to keep that because they may not be where you are at or even in that space, right? But when you evolve, you grow, you set boundaries, you build confidence, you better yourself. There's two types of people that you will recognize in your life. And this is professionally, this is socially, this is all that, right? You got people that will respect, encourage, listen, and are compassionate to acknowledge your transition, even if they're not even when they aren't personally there yet in their journeys, right? And so I have friends who have seen me, evolve in my work and how I do and what I do and grow, that are encouraging and supportive. And some of them are dealing with their own personal struggles and hardships and situations. But even though that might be their own experience in their life, that has not stopped them from being supportive, encouraging, and even looking at what I'm doing as an inspiration for them to keep pushing forward. In other words, they're not the type of person that goes by, I can't be happy for you if I'm not happy with things going on with me. I've always kind of felt a weird cringe about that logic. That yes, you can have your own personal battles and strife, but if you can't see happiness or see or be happy for other people when you're not necessarily feeling your 100%, then that's how you're not in community. Like last week, there was a conversation to ask Ernest about, I talked about what it means to be in community. And I think that is an example of that, is that if you only can show up for people when you're at your best and 100% or when you feel perfect, then that's not being in community, because the goal isn't to always be perfect. And there's no such thing as perfection, right? It's imperfect. Perfection is an imperfect thing because we know that it doesn't exist, right? But this idea that people have where they got to be completely, fully got their shit always on point in this before they are able to show up and be happy for people. I just don't like that, because it's impossible to. And the thing is that there are times where by the time you take that time trying to be perfect and trying to be all together, you done missed major milestones. You done missed major important parts of people's lives. You're just not there. And so I just feel like human beings and people need to be better. I think this is the thing that a lot of people need to work on, is navigating that, and everything does not have to be all the way together in order for you to be present, in order for you to be supportive of other people. If you feel like it has to, then the question becomes, are you jealous? Are you envious? Or are you the type of person where you're so self-centered in your own self that you can't even be able to see other people and where they are at? That's a real thing. I think one thing about myself, I will honestly say that in my friendships that I've had, I feel like I've always been, no matter where I was in my career. And a lot of my friends know this, right? When I first graduated from Penn, right, I stayed in a $450 a month studio apartment. My journalism career was not the way it was now. My life, everything, I was working at a very, very starter up space and pace. I understood my journey. I respected my journey. I had some friends that was going straight to their career. Investment banker jobs, living in nice apartments in New York City, Jersey City, was making some crazy good money, was in degree programs, doing the damn thing off the jump. I never was jealous of them. I was never comparing myself to them. I was never like, oh, you got this, I don't got that, I suck. To be honest, real friends and their success will make you feel like you are part of it when they have it. Okay? Let me tell you that. The friends that I had when I was in situations where I did not have it all and all these things, they always brought me into spaces where they could. They always encouraged me. They always showed, because that's what friends are for. In my experience, in my journey, where I got certain friends that are trying to figure out what's next for them, I've always shown support, always, if they meant taking them out to eat or doing some things or showing love, whatever. I just feel like you're supposed to do that. Like, that's how it always shows up in different ways. And if you're in a position where you feel like you can't be present or support friends when they're doing well or they're doing great because you might not feel like all your things are there, then what's the point of being a friend? Because if that friend is good to you, they'll be encouraging and supportive for you no matter where you are in life. I think that's why Gail and Oprah are, like, just to me, a great example of friendship. Because Gail went through a divorce, went through a hard, rocky marriage when she was married, and her career was going, and Gail always was cheering on Oprah when Oprah was having the type of success we have. Gail was never feeling like she was inadequate or whatever because she understood what she needed to be for Oprah. Oprah just wanted real friends that were there for her. Oprah didn't need Gail to be super rich or be any of those things. When Oprah decided not to be on air as much, but Gail wanted to pursue CBS News and do her damn thing. Now Gail is her own national TV brand. Oprah has been cheerleading her across the way and supporting her in that endeavor and encouraging it. If you're not that kind of friend, then what the fuck are you doing? I'm keeping it 100 because I think a lot of people don't understand what it really means to be a friend and what it really looks like. And I've experienced people where I'm not friends with certain people. I've cut certain people off because I've recognized that imbalance. That the imbalance of, okay, I got one person I'll name. I'm not friends with anymore. Y'all probably can guess who it is because y'all ain't really seen her around. And this is years ago, this particular person. But she's an MSNBC correspondent. I ain't gonna name a name. Some of y'all like, Ernest, you're not gonna tell all that tea. Yeah, I clocked the tea. She on MSNBC. I don't know if she's on there anymore. But she was an MSNBC correspondent, national. She lived in Philly. She's not in Philly anymore. Good riddance. But she's a journalist, I think her work is cool, decent work, right? When we became friends, when I started off, I was very local. I wasn't doing national journalism, as much back then. We started being friends in 2016. We stopped being friends like 2 years ago, actually. And so if you notice this person, you never see them in pictures with me. You never see them at my parties. You never see me with them. You never see that. That's the reason why. And I'm in a space where I feel comfortable to tell a little bit of that story. I ain't gonna tell everything because, some things, you just keep to yourself. But this person, when we first was friends, we connected because we were Black journalists. She did her thing. She was doing her thing. She always was in the national media space, but I was local. And in the beginning, the relationship was cool. I saw her as somebody who could mentor me. She's a little bit older than me. We hung out in certain circles. It was great. But then when there was a period of her life where she went through a divorce, and I was there for her as a friend. Like, I was there for her during that divorce. And it was a very public, nasty divorce because the person was out here in these streets cheating and things, and he had a name for himself. So some of y'all know who I'm talking about. See, I ain't put no names. You didn't hear no names. But he was out here fucking everybody up and down Philadelphia. When she was out covering major stuff, nationwide and covering politics and, growing her career, this man was out here sleeping with everybody throughout the town. Keep it 100. During that time, I was there for my friend. My life was good. Here I am in a position about to get engaged, about to get married. I mean, I was at that point about to get engaged. When they got divorced, my engagement was on the horizons. But she was in a different space. When she was going through her divorce, she disappeared. Well, once she got over it, she kind of disappeared on me. She was, she couldn't, be supportive as in supportive. She got out of that funk. And when she got out of that funk, my career changed. I began to be a little bit more national. I got a book deal. I had certain things coming in my life and career. Her career took an interesting little bit of a turn a little bit. I'll just leave it there at that. But she began to not be as visible. She ghosted. She would make promises to meet me somewhere. At the last minute, she would just flake me. she just was just a bad friend. Just bad as a, she just didn't honor things. She just ghosted. And when I started getting my wedding, when I was getting married, she also kind of was phasing out of the wedding. She wasn't really involved. She kind of ebbed out. And then my wedding comes, and she wants to be so, like, the wedding date comes, she wants to speak at the wedding. She wants to censor herself in a certain type of way that was disingenuous from the way in which she was involved. But because there was going to be a lot of people around, because, the wedding was getting covered by the New York Times, there's a lot of attention and a lot of people was talking about it. She wanted to then use that as opportunity to also soft launch her relationship that she got with a new dude that she currently is with now. And I was like, at the time, I was a little annoyed, a little slightly annoyed. But when you're having a wedding, you're trying to be blissful and joyful. So you're not trying to internalize the drama of things. But it was kind of like, well, damn, how you just going, okay, that's weird. We'll get to that, right? But then I started having issues, right? My career had an interesting spin when NABJ, banned me, and I was dealing with the drama with NABJ. And in that time, she just kind of, again, was somebody who wasn't really saying much to me about anything, wasn't talking, wasn't checking in. This is somebody who was a close friend of mine. This is somebody who went to my wedding. This is somebody who spoke at my wedding. This is somebody who I had been with through their divorce and their public, hardship for a while. I was there for them for years. But when it was my turn, when it was a time in my life when I was going through something, they couldn't be present, be seen. And so it led to us not being friends anymore. I cut them off. We're not friends. We're not friends. I don't hate them, but I don't fuck with them. And it took time, right? And so when I get to this part, right, about the two types of friends, you got the friends that respect, encourage, and listen, and compassion, and know that transition. But you also got those friends that try to hold on to your past existence as a flawed attempt to humble you. They harbor misguided resentment. They guilt trip. They resurrect past feuds. They gaslight. They deny any accountability. They project their insecurities. And they derail any new possibilities of progress. She definitely was the latter. She definitely was the other group. And in your personal growth, I've learned, and this is hard to learn because it took me some time, but that revenge isn't necessarily the answer. Let me be real with you. It took me many years to come to that realization that seeking revenge is not the answer, because the trash will eventually take itself out. But what I've also learned is that you can care about a person, you can love a person from a distance, and you can also accept that no longer engaging with them is not an act of selfishness, but an act of peace. And so for people out here, you're not a narcissist for prioritizing your well-being and your self-care over repetitive cycles of toxic dysfunction, right? No matter how long you've been friends with a person or been cool with a person, no one is entitled to your success and your joy if they're not respectful enough to acknowledge your evolved self. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of people that will do the whole, they see you shine, they see you going to places, they see you on red carpet, they see you at certain spaces, and they kind of feel like because they're your friend, they're entitled to be here, they're everywhere. But at a certain point, you have to go, well, are you respecting my work? Are you showing up for me in ways? Are you acknowledging me in ways that make me feel seen and validated without a handout? Are you being supportive? Are you being encouraging? Are you being present, in certain ways so that you don't feel like every single time I got something, it becomes, where's my invitation? I always hate when I see people, first of all, this is not with my friends, but other people that think we're closer than what they are. I call them acquaintances that have parasocial relationships that think they're closer to me than what they really are. But you got the person that's like, where's my invite? Where's my this? If you got to ask, if you got to do all that, then maybe the relationship is not as close as you think it is. Or maybe it is close, but maybe it wasn't a situation where somebody made a slight. Sometimes you just ain't available. Sometimes you didn't give it too many damn excuses. And so therefore a person got tired of excuses. They just wasn't thinking of you. Maybe it's Maybelline. I don't know, But, that's one way of thinking about it, right? Also, don't let anyone attempt to compromise your value on behalf of others. I had this with certain friends in my past where they were cool with certain people that were just trash. They weren't good people. They weren't. And they wanted you to bite the bullet. They wanted you to be the bigger person and coexist in certain types of friendships and groups that you're like, you know what? This person just ain't it. And if you want to still be cool with them, that's your biz. That's fine. But don't guilt trip me or put me in a position where I got to deal with this person outside of just typical hi there, hello there. And there's sometimes where there's certain friends, and I don't really have friends like this in my life now, but in the past, I had friends who wanted to date people that were homophobic, that were not cool, that were whatever. And they would try to, act like they can have their cake and ice cream too. And it's just like, no. Because if you're a real friend, you're never going to be in too many relationships with too many enemies. I get that sometimes, shit happens and things, and people got different relationships, and sometimes it ain't really a relationship that's, okay, I don't hate this person. This person may not be my bestie or my cup of tea. So it doesn't require you to be like, oh, it's a no, it's a me or them, pick one. But also recognize that sometimes you do got to be in certain circles where, hey, certain people may not be always down to go on the girls trip or the boys trip. Maybe I don't need to be putting everybody in the same mix because that may not be the comfort zone. It doesn't mean that you got to pick or choose. Because I've become as a friend, I don't really like to make my friends choose between people unless it's something that is like ridiculous. Like, I don't know, this person raped my friend and y'all still want to hang out with the person that raped my friend or somebody I was cool with. Okay, maybe that was a little, listen, I have recognized, that's a true story. That's a true story. I literally stopped being friends with somebody that was cool with a guy that raped somebody that I cared for. And they just, like they were so friends to the point where they actually want us to all go to a party together. I was like, did you not hear what I said the last? We just gonna skip? Oh, okay. So like, that's what I mean, right? Like, not just, oh, this person don't really, they, every time I see them, they half that. I don't do petty, right? So I'm not telling you not to be a person like that. That's not a line I draw. I'm like, be cool who you cool with, but also respect boundaries and respect that everybody's not going to be able to sometimes be in the same space, and don't make your friends compromise or acquiesce to that. Sometimes it is what the fuck it is. Now, if you feel like it's a legit petty feud where it ain't really no real meaning to it, maybe it was some old beef from 5,000 years ago, and you think you can sit people down and talk about it, I'm always down for that. But if a person lays down the rule and say, listen, I don't want to deal with this person did something that was really hurtful, that is irrevocable, and I really don't want to be in a position like that, respect that, right? And then, I will always say people don't have the right to define what mentorship, friendship, networking, and family looks like to you in your life. Don't let nobody do that to you. Sometimes people will try to tell you who your best friends are and why this person is close to you, why this person really isn't. I have my own understanding, interpretation for the relationships in my life. And I think sometimes others in your life will try to feel like seniority or whatever can define why a person has access to you. You got to understand why that person is the way they are in your life. You got to understand why you're close to that person. It's no one's business for why you choose to have the relationship you have with that person or certain people. And I've noticed that in certain situations, people will try to do that, whether it's family members, whether it's other folks. You know why you have the relationships you have. You know why you've decided to make certain pacts and certain kinship with folk. Some people may not see it, understand it for them. It ain't for them to understand, it's for you to understand. As long as you understand and it makes sense to you, proceed. And then lastly, give yourself the grace and space to tell people that a no now may not be a no forever, but until you do right by me, motherfucker, this shit will end. Give yourself that. Understand that sometimes a relationship can change through time. Sometimes you can age out of a relationship. Sometimes you might tell yourself, you know what, me and you are not friends right now because you on some fucked up shit. But give yourself the space to say, maybe it can change in the universe if it needs to. Don't force it, but maybe it can. So this friend I told you about, this ex-friend I told you about, I do believe that if this person comes to the table, apologetic, can really evolve, if they really come to the table and we can have a real honest conversation about how things went left, And we could really understand that, and we can understand they really are in a place of forgiveness, and they're coming from a place of real acknowledgement, and they really want to move forward. I think we could be friends again. I do. I don't think that relationship is completely dead. But right now it is deceased. Because right now, I'm not about to accept or be okay with being in a space with that person right now. I don't know who they are. I think that they done fell off some type of wagon. And honestly, I think the way that they have moved has been very disloyal. And so unless there is a conversation and a real, true, intentional pathway to peace and understanding, there's a real place to restore, I'm always open to the possibility. I will never rule it out and say never is never. That I'll give myself. Give yourself that in relationships. Not every relationship is the end. Now, in certain cases, that's it for me. But some cases, though, I would say, I'd say about 80% of my relationships that no longer exist, I feel like 80% of them could get repaired. But it would need to be the work of that person. Because I also believe that when you wrong somebody and you've done the wrong, it's up to you to recognize your fault in that and humble yourself to fix it. And let me be very clear: in friendship dynamics that failed, the person always know they was wrong in it. If they can lie all day and say they did nothing wrong, but that must mean they're a narcissist or they're delusional. But I will always say, in certain situations, people will know. People will know when they're wrong. People will know when they did it. And to be honest with you, I've had people who at one point in time I wasn't cool with for a period of time, and then we sat down, we had a conversation, and we resolved our issues, and they recognized their fault in it, and they did come correct. And then we moved on, and we grew, and we're friends. I've had relationships like that. I have relationships like that. I've had relationships like that. So you can do that. You can do that. You can sit with a person. The person can say, you know what? I was fucked up for what I did. I was wrong. I want to apologize for that. You can do that. Nobody's perfect. So if you can't do that, though, if you can't understand where you went left and be on the receiving end too, right? To hear that person out and come to that understanding. If you can't do that, then the relationship was never meant to be anyway. And I've been in some situations where I realized that sometimes relationships are built on superficiality. Somebody was like, you a bad bitch, I'm a bad bitch, so we can be bad bitches together. That's not enough to be friends with somebody. That can start, but y'all gotta have a real reason to be friends. And I think artificial relationship connections, that's how stuff like that unfolds. You meet somebody at a party, it look good, y'all kikiing, y'all exchange numbers, and then you don't take time to develop why you like a person or why y'all really friends. And I've seen a lot of people do that with me, where they see me and say, oh, I like you. You'll be my new bestie. And in my mind, I'm like, girl, child, no, that is not how that works. Okay, baby, this is Ernest University has a low acceptance rate. Okay, it's highly competitive. You just can't just waltz your ass in here. Let me tell you, I used to do that. Some of my friends listen to this podcast right now. I used to be guilty of that. I used to go to events. I would hit it off with people because I'm a social person. I would go to events and meet somebody, and they hit it off with me. And the next thing you know, I'm bringing them into the phone. My friend's like, who the hell is this? How you meet this person? You just let anybody into the party. And I had to slow down with that, because in those situations, those would be the people that the relationships wouldn't work. You know, and so I just have done a better job of vetting. I'm very guarded in a responsible way. I call it ethically guarded. I'm not guarded as I'm just, I'm off-putting or I'm standoffish. I am ethically, like I have to take, I'm really mindful about that word friend. I'm very mindful about just letting people into my circle, because I recognize the value and the power of my circle. And so I'm mindful of that. But I'm also be telling my friends too, with some of these people y'all be dating, I'm dead ass about, okay, you dating this person, this ain't no husband, this ain't a long-term relationship. Please don't be bringing them to my party. Because sometimes I had a situation with one friend where a person they dated, that person was opportunistic, and they basically wanted to integrate themselves, and they were dating girls. And we noticed that they had a pattern of dating girls who were connected to high power circles. And so what they would do is they would date these girls so the girls can bring them into these circles so that they in proximity will get access to these particular power players and networkers. There's a lot of people that date their way into those type of things, right? I have been mindful of that. Like, I recognize that my circle is full of very influential, powerful people. Not just myself, but others. And I recognize that my network is my net worth. And I just can't let anybody come in here and get a taste of the stock. So do that in your own circles. Be mindful about who you're bringing in, because there are people that will come into these spaces, and the moment they come in, they want to start poaching. They want to start plucking folks to do stuff for them and do things. And you got to be mindful if those people that's in those spaces are in those spaces to be really good friends and know how to be grounded, or are they just so hyper professional that everything they see is an opportunity for work, and they see people as assets, as a means to an end, rather than actually building a real grounded relationship, a meaningful relationship that isn't so hyper professional and so fucking transactional. Think about those circles. Observe them. Observe the relationships and the nature of them. Yeah. I'll leave that there. So this is quite the podcast episode, but y'all were hungry and I was ready to feed y'all. Movies. I don't have much to say about the movies right now, except there was one movie. Listen, I'm a masochist, y'all. And we're talking about masochism in cinema, which means I'm talking about Tyler Perry. So I watched, or tried to watch, Duplicity, which is this Tyler Perry film. You know what I've noticed with him lately? He always tries to get these big, like, SAT words and use them and then make a movie based off of those titles, because he thinks it's such a corny way of thinking it's going to be sophisticated. So, he did that with Acrimony. He did that with a couple of his films where he'll take these one words and then try to, make them into something, make it sound like sophisticated. So Acrimony was one of his films. This is Duplicity. Tyler Perry's Duplicity. It's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Right? Next thing you know, he's gonna have a film, Tyler Perry's Debauchery. So I just noticed that he does that with a lot of his films. And so I don't even need to talk about the plot of this film because it doesn't fucking matter. At this point, I could spend all day complaining about Tyler Perry films, but I won't, because I chose to watch it. Because I just did. And what I think we gotta admit, for those people who watch Tyler Perry films, listen, there are people who are going to always hate watch these films. There are people that's going to act like these films are better than what they are. They're not. But I also think there is a masochism in Tyler Perry films that must be addressed. And I like Mea Culpa. Like that's another example. Like he did Mea Culpa. It's like, oh, like you always want, like next thing you know, he's gonna do a film called Res Ipsa. Like listen, hear me now when I say this. He's gonna always try to take these very sophisticated terms, either they're Latin or whatever, and try to make the movie titles as if they're sophistication. It's just the most cheapest way to do it. But like at the end of the day, Tyler Perry films, if you watch them at this point, you are a masochist. You enjoy putting yourself through that type of trauma. Like you actually like to watch a bad movie. You know it's going to be bad. You want to watch it because you can't help but watch it. So Dr. Parks, maybe that's just what you and Joe, listen, I get it. Y'all purposely watch those films. You tell me, I know deep down inside you watch them knowing they're going to be bad, knowing that they're not going to make sense. And low key, you watch them as a sense of comedy. I think that's the new thing. I think that there is a level of us who watch Tyler Perry films. And guess what? Listen, there's the new plot twist. Because they're on streaming devices, meaning that they're streaming, right? They're elevated Tubi films. Because I watch Tubi films. I ain't going to hold you. I watch Tubi films not because they're the cinematic quality, because I want to watch them be bad. Do not have any expectations. No more will I ever spend money on a Tyler Perry movie. I think what Tyler Perry's doing is, I think he's not putting that many movies in theaters anymore, which I think is smart. Put it on streaming, because everybody will hate watch it. Even if they like it or don't like it, they'll put it on streaming. A Tyler Perry movie is not worth any actual funding. Like, do not buy, like back in the day, I used to watch Tyler Perry movies. I used to buy movie tickets and I used to be angry. Now I can't even complain because now he's no longer wasting my time and my money. He's just wasting my time, which time is more precious than money. But I digress. With Tyler Perry movies, let's all agree that they're the type of movies that you have on. You don't really need to watch it like it's a serious Oscar. So when I saw my friend watching that movie with, cuddled up, trying to watch it, like, girl, shame on you. You should have been watching that while he's clipping your nails. You should have been watching that while he's working on one of your papers or one of your schedules. You should have been doing that differently, Dr. Parks. Shame on you. She was literally watching it like with the lights off. No Tyler Perry movie is worth the lights off. That's a movie you should have watched in the daytime while ordering a sandwich, and you should have been somewhere doing some other shit, okay? Not you giving Tyler your undivided attention. You could have been texting me while watching it. See, that's where you fucked up. No Tyler Perry movie is worth your undivided attention in this day. No new Tyler Perry movie. No streaming Tyler Perry movie is worth your undivided attention. Okay, put that movie on in the background like I did while I was over here scheduling some stuff, getting my table together, grading papers. Like, do it like that. Okay? Treat it like that. Like, treat it like the way y'all treat a Lifetime movie. But I digress. Now on to music. I just need to say this. Not everyone deserves a tour. I just want to put that out there in the universe. Not everybody deserves a tour. I don't know what Omarion is doing, but this him yelling at his fans and tell his fans to stand up while he performs. Child, ain't nobody stand up for these whack-ass songs. When last time has Omarion had a hit in the past? I don't even know. Listen, I'm going to tell you when last time he did. That was 10 years ago. The last time Omarion had a hit was actually 11 years ago. 11 years ago. Okay? The song was called Supposed to Be. That was the last time Omarion had a song that was worth listening to. Okay? The song was called Supposed to Be. I don't know why it's called Post to Be, because it should have been supposed, but I guess supposed. But post, I don't know. But Omarion, that was his last song hit, his last song worthy of play that came out 11 years ago. It was featuring Chris Brown and Janae Aiko. That was it. I don't, it was number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100. It was in number 5 on the, that was it. I don't really know any other Omarion songs after that. I don't really know what the plan was for the songs after that. But yeah, I think it's important to note the era that we was in and what it looked like. So yeah. Omarion is still out here doing music. I don't know who's listening to it. I'll just leave it at that. He's a Scorpio, so that might put some things in perspective. So, speaking of tours, Chris Brown is dropping a new tour. I guess it's supposed to celebrate the 20-year anniversary of his career. The song Run It by Chris Brown came out in 2005. And so now he's on tour to celebrate being 20 years in the industry. So now he's doing what is called the XX Tour, the 20 Tour, to celebrate his 20th anniversary in the game. I won't be going. I'm not saying that he should have a tour, but I won't be going. But one thing I've noticed is that Trey Songz has been on this little random club appearance tour as well. And I see some of y'all still going and taking pictures with Trey Songz. Y'all done forgot what happened? Y'all done forget what happened. Y'all don't care. And so what I've realized is that I'm looking at y'all a little funny because y'all know what's going on and y'all don't care. And listen, it is what it is. Now, I know y'all want to ask me about Will Smith's new album. You know, at first I was going to give it a read, and then I said, you know what? I took some time to reflect, right? His new album's called Based on a True Story. That's what it's called. It's, you know, he's talking about the Oscar smack, you know, which I get, you know. It's 14 songs. You know, he's got Joyner Lucas on it. He's got Big Sean. He's got Tiana Taylor, which is pretty good. That song is good. It's called Hard Times. He's got his son Jaden Smith on it, and he's got, you know, some other artists. You know, Sunday Service Choir on there. DJ Jazzy Jeff is on there. B Simone, which we love. But you know, I mean, how do I put it? I will say, you know what? Good for him. It's you know, it's his first album in like 20 years. And I think what's important to note is that he did this album. This is a self-healing album for him. Some artists are allowed to just put out music. Sometimes you get to a point in your life where, you know, you're just doing music that makes you feel good. This is for him. He's 56 years old. You know, he's going to be 57 in September. He's a Libra. You know, look, why not? Why not? Do your thing. Do your thing. I think this is one of those middle finger albums where he wants to address his haters. He is, you know, just having his fun. And I don't think he's trying to be a serious hip-hop contender. I mean, he never really was. I mean, he is a part of hip-hop history. He's the first to ever win a Grammy, you know. You know, he got an Oscar. He's got a Grammy now. You know, if he would have stuck to his guns, he could have had EGOT status potentially, you know. But he, you know, he's just having fun. There's a street renaming of him, like I mentioned earlier. I could argue about the album's inconsistency. I could argue that sometimes the album just kind of, there's some songs in the album that just feel like it don't make sense. I don't feel like he's making this album for me. I think he's making this album for a lot of older Black men that are like, you know, dads. You know, it's giving dad rap. It's giving, you know, they're going to bump this. This is for those mid 50-year-old folks that got their kids is out of college or going to college, and, you know, they're driving like big, huge trucks, SUVs. You know, they you know, with peanut butter interior, you know, and they're wearing, you know, denim on denim, and they think that denim on denim look makes them look like they're fashionable. You know, they're wearing Timberlands, you know, and they're wearing Kango hats, and they really think that, you know, they think that they're hip. You know, it's a dad rap album. It's not bad. It's just not, you know, it's not for 33-year-old Ernest Owens, for sure. You know, it's not for the kids. It's dad rap. You know, it's for the dads. It's for those who got mortgages and things, you know, those who like to go out and get away from the wife with a beer at the bar. They say, I'm going outside tonight, but really they're hanging out with their frat brothers at a bar, drinking beer, and there's a pretty girl serving the drinks. They're not going to cheat because Black men don't cheat. And they're just going to you know, that's the rap album for them. It's a certain type of Black man that's liking this rap album. It's not for me, and that's okay. This rap album is for those dads, those Black men, those older Black men that are like, you know, late 40s, early 50s. They used to be out in the streets. They know a good party when they see one. They know that life, but they don't live that life now. But they love to tell their kids those stories about how they used to be the man back in the day. Okay? There are those guys that go to the barbershop, that's been at that barbershop for like 30-something plus years, grew up there. They're the dudes that go to their high school reunions and talk about how, you know, they turn their life around and how they're doing decent for themselves. If you ever watched the show My Wife and Kids, the dad in My Wife and Kids will listen to this album. It's not for us, y'all. It's not for us. So for that, good job, Will, for making an album for your generation. And there's no shade for the Gen X dads. Thank you for making an album for them. So when these old heads that I have to interact with in my fraternity sometimes are like, oh, the rap ain't good. This is not, they're not making no grown music. Where the grown rap, blah, 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 blah. Go listen to Will Smith's new album. That's for y'all. He made an album for y'all. Okay? Stop getting mad at Future. Let Future be. Okay? Let me enjoy Future. You go listen to Will Smith's new album if that's what y'all want. He made an album for them. And now they got one album for them. So to all of my fellow millennials and Gen Zers, when you hear your dads or your uncles and people, this is an Unc album. They made an album for him. That is an Unc album. Okay? Not a Big Brother album. No. That's not an album for me. Like my brother listens to Playboy Cardi. I don't understand Playboy Cardi. I've definitely aged out of Playboy Cardi. But what is the Big Brother album? The Big Brother album is Kendrick, Drake is still pandering to young people. J. Cole is a Big Brother album. Even though they try to listen to that. No, that's the Big Brother album, J. Cole. Kendrick, I would say. Future. I know, that's us. Metro. Well, we don't listen to Metro anymore right now. The Unc album, though, is if Ludacris drops an album right now. DMZ, DMX, RIP. Jay-Z. If Jay-Z drops another album, if he decides to do 555 instead of 444, that is giving Unc album, that is for the Will Smith generation. That album is for them, okay? So I think we just got to understand that there's different generations to this. So I'll give him that. Now, moving on quickly. The Eternal Sunshine album. Oh my God, Ariana Grande's new album, Better Days, her deluxe edition. Y'all know I love Ariana Grande. I am here for this album. I enjoy this album so much. I thoroughly enjoy this album. I like the new songs. It's an extension off Eternal Sunshine. I feel like that album is underrated. It should have gotten more Grammy nominations, but I enjoyed it, and I liked it. This deluxe. She really did do her big one. There's a lot of new songs on the album, and if you're an Ariana Grande fan, you will appreciate it. It's something to give us as she gets ready for, I don't know, Wicked. Wicked. The part 2 of Wicked, which is for good. So I like it. I got good things to say. Now, moving on to TV. I could talk about Abbott Elementary and how it's been killing it and slaying it, because you already know this already. I could talk about Love and Hip Hop and how messy it is, but I'm actually going to talk about this new show that's coming to Netflix that I'm not a fan of. It's Pop the Balloon. Now, if you don't know what Pop the Balloon is, you definitely know what it is. If anybody who's been on TikTok or Instagram know what I'm talking about. It's those popular little video clips where there is how do I describe it? It is basically a woman or a man, depending on what it is, who they are. There's a lineup of couples. There's a single person, and they want to date somebody. And they walk into the room, and the group of people with the balloon is making decisions. They're going to decide whether they want to date the person or not. And so the person might walk in and they might pop the balloon immediately and say, I don't want to date this person. Or they might pop their balloon based on the responses the person is giving. So it's a combination of several things. This is going viral. There's this couple that created it. This is this lovely young lady. But the concept is it works for the internet because it's rage baiting. Like basically it's clout baity. It's clout chasing. It's very clickbaity. Like you can't resist but to see the balloon pop situation. You want to see why the person and what it's such a very instant gratification type of show. But they want to make a TV show out of it, and they want it to be live, and they want the woman, the actress Yvonne Urgi, who used to be on the show Insecure. They want her to host this show, which I already think is corny because they should have the original girl, the original host do it because there's a certain aesthetic, but for whatever reason, they're working in partnership. She's playing as an executive producer of the show, but I think she should be the host, but I digress. So they're bringing this to Netflix. I'm like, you know what? That's the thing. Like, capitalism kills everything. I get it. You're making money. But now that it's going to become a Netflix show, that sucks the fun out of what it was as an internet sensation. And so sometimes I feel like there are things that were great in their original formatting, but to try to take it to be something else, it may not work or transfer the same way. And so I don't know how I feel about this being an actual TV show on Netflix, because now I think it's corny, because now I feel like people are going to force the drama. Like, it's not going to be organically fun. Like, what makes this show fun is that it's random people. It's very low stakes. It's very internet type of thing. But now that a person knows they're going to be on a Netflix show and they know that it's going to be everybody on the internet watching them, the level of thirst to want to go viral or to be seen is going to be at an all-time high. And I just think that people are going to be acting rather than actually being themselves. I don't know. I just don't think it's going to be the same fun reality TV that works for like the reality social media content. Like, that show works good as like a quick little 5-minute segment. It's not going to be fun as a Netflix show. And I feel like when corporations like do these partnerships and do this, they suck out the life and the fun of the show. So I'm not that enthusiastic about it personally. But we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. And then in concluding, we're coming into April, I'm telling y'all right now, there's no April Fools for me. I'm too grown. We don't do April Fools. And with the government cut up the way it is, April Fools have already happened. It's called the Trump administration, okay? Hopefully somebody will tell us April Fools and it will go away. But until then, we ain't doing no April Fools. Is over. I want to give a happy birthday to my good friend, Chris Bartlett, who has already will turn 59. It's interesting because it was a throwback. I looked at a picture that I thought was 5 years ago, but actually it was 9 years ago. It was, oh my goodness, Chris and I have been friends for over a decade, but this was his 50th birthday was in 2016. And it's crazy to me because they look so much better than they've always looked good, but like, both of us are aging backwards. I'm like, oh my goodness, you're 59, and it just hit me like, oh my goodness, they're about to be 60, and like, look at the world, look at time. But they are 59. They're living their best life, and they're doing great things. They've announced their retirement from the William Way, being the executive director of the William Way Center, and for them to be able to transition out of that and just be an advocate. And they've been doing this work for decades. It's just great. It's great to have a friend that's doing great work. So happy birthday to you. I look forward to seeing you soon. And then lastly, I know a lot of you all have been, like, where is this Oxford Union debate? I have a sense. First of all, it is coming. It is coming. I know. Now I feel. See, this is why I shouldn't have. See, this is why I don't be telling y'all anything. This is why I try not to give y'all dates or give y'all anything because then that's when anticipation. So you know what? Scrap all that. Like, no, I'm going to listen. What I think has happened is that first of all, it is coming. It is being produced. It's getting edited. It's all that is happening. I think that it's the end of the month. And because these YouTube channels do stuff on monthly views and in traffic, I think that because there's some debates, a lot of debates, they haven't been doing as much debates. I think the season, because if you think about Oxford Union, they're still college and university. So they don't do this 24/7. They don't do this all year round. They take periods of time where they do a season and then they fade and then they take a break. I think their debates are wrapping up for this cycle of their season. And so I think what they want to do is they want to move certain pieces of content to certain months as they phase out and get ready for the next season of their debates. And also as graduations are going to start happening over there. So I have a sense that it's going to drop this week because it's April and their views will account to their monthly views for the new month. So I do think there's a sense of me that think that it's going to happen this week in April, because at this point it's about around that time where it makes sense. So I have a sense in my gut that it's going to actually be the first week of April, which I always sense. They always kind of said the last week of March, at the end of March, or the beginning of April. So I do sense it will be this month for sure. And most likely we'll start off the beginning of the month with this. So we'll see. But I have a funny feeling it's going to be a big one. And stay tuned as always. So we'll see. But I'm really optimistic it's going to be this week because I am very excited to see how this plays out and see how it rolls out. And yeah, we'll see. But this is, we're wrapping up March and we're looking forward to these April showers. If there's rain, we'll see. It's spring. Spring is here. March Madness is over. And we're ready for a new month and a new season of great work and everything else. And this is a super long episode, but you all deserve it. And as always, be well and be best.
Ernestly Speaking is recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. To stay up to date with the latest on the show, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mr. Ernest Owens. Use the hashtag Ernestly Speaking to tell me what you thought about this episode, and check out my website at ernestowens.com.